sure that's rocking and rolling. Yeah, because I got all day, dude. I'm on your schedule, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to have some fun, bro.
We are, yeah. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. We got Paul Lilley in the studio today. Paul, thank you for coming on.
Dude, it's a pleasure, man. I'm happy to see you, bro.
We've known each other a long time.
Yes, we have.
We're going to get through all of that. But you were telling me about Route Irish right off the bat. You want to dive into that?
Yeah. So
tell the audience about Route Irish.
Route Irish, man. That's an infamous road, man. So, it was. We were on this road, right? And it's the main route between Baghdad International Airport and the Green Zone, where all the embassies and all the government stuff is at. So it goes right through the heart of Baghdad, right? And when I was there in Iraq, it was, I remember President Bush talked about it. He said it was the most dangerous road in the world at the time. And we saw that every day. I was on there every day for 8 hours, did an afternoon shift till sundown. And, you knew car bomb, IED, small arm, you were getting something that day. It was happening.
Vegas odds, you're getting fucked up.
Dude, you absolutely get messed up. And we saw that frequently. But yeah, there was one day we had, was like the worst day we had over there. It was intense. We took we had a couple patrols out, and one of our trucks, they had shut down the road because they were checking out a car that's on the side of the road. We're checking for car bombs. We kind of expected it to be one. Well, I was off in another patrol a couple blocks away from there, and we were listening on the radio while it was going on, and all of a sudden it just, like, being a couple blocks away, it literally felt like somebody hit me in the chest with a baseball bat. Car bomb went off. You could see just the mushroom cloud just shoot up in the sky from where we were at, and man, I remember I looked over at my platoon sergeant. He was driving in the truck with me, and his face was white. Yeah. And we just knew.
It's pretty natural.
Something just happened. Some shit just went down, and I was a driver, and so, like, I hit the gas, and I remember just, like, we were just cutting across everything, just trying to get over to them, and when we got up there, man, it was carnage. It was absolute carnage. I remember when I first pulled up, there was this bus. Not bus. It was like a big van. Just crashed into one of the pylons for the bridge, just burning. Our truck was engulfed in flames. One of our trucks was just completely gone.
Yeah.
And it's just everywhere. There's just pieces of cars everywhere. Everything was on fire. And yeah, man, it was intense. We got there, and I pulled over. We set the perimeter. I had my gunner. He was watching the perimeter. Everybody else jumped out of the truck and started kind of just, like, securing the area. We started taking small arms fire from a rooftop right across the street. And so we were returning fire. They weren't shooting at my location, but another location. We just hear them just shooting off.
Yeah, when it rains, it pours.
Oh,
right?
dude, they just come at you. And but it's quick. It's really quick. They pop a few shots off, and then they're gone. And so by the time we were even, like, ready to kind of coordinate a counteroffensive back and go get them, they were already gone. So it happened so fast. Pop a few rounds off and gone. But we had to, our main thing is we knew we had casualties. And I can't remember exactly how many. I want to say it was around 12 guys got pretty messed up. Thankfully, everybody survived that miraculously. But one of the gunner that was in that truck that got hit, he took the full force of a car bomb. So what happened was, I found this out later. So they shut down the highway, and they were, checking out this car. Well, they got ordered to start letting cars through, because you got to keep that, everything was backing up. It's a main road. We have to keep traffic flowing. You got to keep cars moving. What we didn't know, I think it was like the second or third car back was a car bomb. And as soon as he just pulled up to that truck, boom. And it sucked the gunner out of that truck. He was on, I think, a Mark 19.
Probably.
Grenade, automatic grenade launcher.
Automatic grenade launcher.
So it sucked him out of the truck. It ripped that off the top of the turret. We found that down on the street next, like half a block away.
Which for the audience, it's not a light piece of equipment. No. It is a large belt-fed automatic grenade launcher.
Yeah.
Not light.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a couple man carry.
Yeah.
But, it sucked him out. We had a bunch of guys that were just, holes in them.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, he got taken out of the truck and landed somewhere down near that Mark 19. But I can't remember exactly how high they estimate he flew, but he went pretty far. He ended up with massive burns all over his body, 3rd-degree burns, lost both of his hands, right eye, his ear, all gone. And miraculously he pulled through, man. He's still with us. I just saw him this Saturday.
I was going to say, are you still, how is he doing?
He's doing well. He's a farmer, cattle farmer, and I actually was just talking to him about buying some meat off of him. So.
Nice.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
But it was crazy. So after we kind of secured the area, I got on the radio, or I heard on the radio to come around, and they want to use me for Casevac. And so I pulled my truck around, and I remember driving through everything. And at this point, all the ammunition in that truck was starting to cook off. So remember, Mark 19 on that truck. So you got buckets, barrels of
eggs,
of grenades in that back of that truck, just starting to cook off. And I'm driving through there. You hear just pop, 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 pop.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's cooking off, and I'm just like, holy crap! And so I drive over there, and as soon as I get over there, just start putting my buddies in the truck and so once we got loaded up, me and my gunner's yelling at me. He said, "Go, go, go!" So we took off to the green zone, and we roll up in there. We radioed ahead, let them know we're coming at the checkpoint, so we could just blast through. And so we go flying through there. It was literally just me, my truck, and we didn't have that far to go, so it was like right outside of pretty much the green zone.
Mm-hmm.
We get in there, pull up to the hospital, and we unload everybody, and we just wanted to go in, just check and make sure everything was good. And the guys were getting seen, and they stopped. The security at the hospital stopped us, and they wouldn't let us in because Saddam was actually in the hospital having surgery at that same time. And I'm going to be honest. It was smart they didn't let us in.
Yeah, right.
With that information, it wouldn't have been a trial.
I'm surprised they even told you. Right?
I was surprised too, but I was so mad. I couldn't believe it. So yeah, that was dude. It was a crazy day, and
it sounds like it.
I remember. It was so terrible too, because by the time we got back to the base, back to Baghdad International Airport, we found out that within 15 minutes of that bomb going off. There was a news organization. I'm not going to say which one, but there was a news organization that had mentioned, had an article already up saying 15 guys from the Illinois National Guard had been killed.
No shit.
None of us died.
Yeah, good. Yeah,
so,
good. Miraculously, right?
I was like, it was, just to show you just how bad some of the reporting was during that time.
I remember, and we could trade stories all day, which is why we're here, right?
Yeah.
So to introduce you to the audience, you're from Polo, Illinois. Originally, we grew up. What year did you graduate?
2002.
2002. So I was a little bit ahead of you.
Yep.
Obviously, I knew of you, and I followed your military career. But you covered a lot of ground. Like you were a veteran of the Cav Scouts. What was the name of the unit? Dixon out of the Guard.
Yeah, it's Dixon National Guard. It was Bravo Troop 106 Cav.
Right on. And you deployed. What years did you deploy?
So our National Guard deployments work a little different. So for us, it was a 1.5-year deployment. We left in October 2003 and came back. I think it was March 2005.
Okay.
So it was a 1.5-year deployment. But a lot of that was train up. Right. We had 6 months. Not a lot of it, but 6 months train up here in the country to kind of get up to speed with, kind of tactics and what's going on over there, the latest and stuff like that. So
right on.
Yeah.
And then you've got on their resume, it's an impressive resume, dude. You've got some professional acting, a lot of professional acting. You've got some stand-up in there.
Yep.
A little bit of entrepreneurship.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, let's unpack all of it, right?
Let's
Take me back to the beginning, right? So Polo graduation, what made you decide to enlist? Was it the GWAT? Was it? What was the impetus of you going into the service?
So I had no desire. I hadn't even thought about joining the military when I joined. It was it was a random chance kind of a thing. I ran into a buddy at Walmart there in Sterling, and he was like, I hadn't seen him in a few years, but he had joined the National Guard, and he was like, dude, I think I was 16 at the time. Was I junior, just starting my junior year in high school, and he comes up, he's like, dude. He's like, you should join the National Guard, man. It's awesome. I was an Eagle Scout. I was in the Boy Scouts.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I'm an Eagle.
Shit.
Yeah. So I'm an Eagle Scout. So he's like, and that's how I knew this guy. And he's like, dude, you can join the National Guard at 17. You can start getting a paycheck, go to basic training between your junior and senior year of high school.
That's right. Yeah,
They'll pay for college, and since you're an Eagle Scout, you can come in as a private first class.
Sick.
So I was like, automatic, pay raise, coming right in.
This sounds perfect.
I was like, join 17. I can get a paycheck. I really wasn't working that much. It was 16. I was like, let's do it.
Yeah,
this is
great.
This is a great idea.
Yeah.
So I remember on my mom asked me what I wanted to do for my 17th birthday, and I was like, I want to join the National Guard. That's what I want to do.
How'd that go over?
College is going to get paid for. She was like, no.
Yeah.
But she eventually respected it, and she was like, okay, that's what you really want to do, because I was very insistent. I'm like, that's the only thing I want. I don't want a birthday cake. I don't want gifts. I don't want nothing. I want to go out to dinner. I want the recruiter at our dinner table, and I want to sign the paperwork on my 17th birthday. And that's what happened. So yeah, he came up, and it was almost on a whim, because again, I wanted to do this to pay for college, right? This is pre 9/11. None of that. I had no idea what was coming, right? So this is January of 2001. And so he's sitting at my table, right? And I can't make this up, man. This is the craziest enlistment story you can imagine, right? So I'm signing the paperwork, signing my life away. And right before I signed the last page, I look up and I'm like, what are the odds? What do you think are my odds of actually seeing combat? And then, it's a 6-year contract.
Yeah.
I'm like, National Guard. I ain't going to see anything, right? But I'm like, what's the odds you think I'm going to see combat during this contract? And he thought about it for a second. Give it 2 to 3 years, you'll be in the Middle East.
Did he really? No shit.
And I was like, you're full of shit, man.
Yeah.
Like nobody's that in 2 to 3 years. Come on, like you're full of shit. Sorry, let's do this.
Wow.
And so, and I honestly, I didn't even know what job I was signing up for. I wanted the free college, right? I didn't really pay attention.
Really?
Yeah. So Dixon at the time, we were Stinger missiles. We were air defense artillery. And so I was a Stinger missile operator. So I signed my life away. February, I went up to Chicago to MEPS and went through that whole process, and that's always fun. But did that, and then with the National Guard, so that first drill weekend, so National Guard is 1 weekend, it's like, reserve, Marine Reserves. You do 1 week in a month, 2 weeks in the summer. So, that's easy, right? So that first drill weekend, they sent me down to Springfield, and at the time they had like this kind of prep program thing where they put you through a mock basic training for a weekend. You go down there Friday night, and you're in the barracks, and you're with a bunch of people you don't know. They get you uniforms. You're immediately doing PT. You're doing drill and ceremony. They give you they do a quick overview through a lot of the common weapon systems that you're going to use in basic.
Okay.
And then Sunday you're kind of doing all this tests and stuff, and then whoever scores highest on the tests gets to go on a Black Hawk helicopter ride over Springfield.
Nice.
So I barely, I'll be honest, I barely made it in there, but I got on the chopper, and dude, that was sick. Oh my God, I was instantly hooked into the military at that point, because they took us up and we had the doors open. We're flying around, and I remember the pilot. He just put that thing on its side and just turned. Oh, I remember my face was just like plastered to the seat, the G-force. I was like, holy shit, dude! It was so much fun.
That is cool.
And then it was the next month I actually met my unit, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be great, man. This is gonna be a lot of fun. Started, training on the Stinger missiles, and kind of that was my first exposure to the weapon system, and we were doing aircraft identification, and we're looking, they're going through the slideshow and calling, doing the testing and figuring out what all the aircraft were, and I'm looking at it going like, what? I don't even know what any of these are. Like,
sure.
And then
and why would you?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
It was my first drill, but then they hand me this big, thick book, and they're like, learn all these.
Yep, memorize all these.
And I'm like, okay, well, I got probably another 2 years before I actually go to job training, so I got time. we're good. So, I started learning that, but yeah, it was as soon as my junior year ended of high school, head up to Chicago, get on an airplane, went down to, why am I blanking? I went down to Oklahoma.
Fort Sill.
Fort Sill.
Yeah, Fort Sill, Oklahoma.
Was down there for basic training, and man, it just took off from there, man.
Was the basic training everything you thought it'd be, or was the prep enough to where you're like, okay, I got this?
It prepped me a little bit enough for it, I think. But I definitely it was still a shock.
Sure,
it was still a big shock. I think I had a little bit of advantage with some of the drill and ceremony stuff, and kind of previous knowledge of some of the weapon systems. So it kind of had a head start, but it was still a big shock. And I think the biggest part was the week before we even got to the barracks, where you're just going through medical, you're going through the paperwork, you're getting all your equipment, and that was intense. And then you get there, they shave your head, and I just remember like the one thing that stands out from that week is you're literally walking down this hallway and station to station. There's just one person on each side, shot.
Yeah, lots of needles.
You're just like, oh my god, I'm getting tired of this.
Where's the end?
So. Yeah. But, immediately that week, I remember I was just exhausted and just, even though like I was prepping physically for it, because I knew it was going to be a bunch of push-ups and stuff like that. Nothing what you guys go through in the Marine Corps, but yeah, it was pretty intense. But it was, there was a lot of guys that were doing it like I was, 17-year-olds, but we also had, because of that, I think we had a lot of National Guard drill sergeants coming through. So every 2 weeks, that was their annual training. They would come to us every 2 weeks. We get a new drill sergeant. So it was like day one again with a new drill sergeant.
No shit.
Yeah, we had our one main drill sergeant, but the other two that were with us, those were all reservists coming through.
Oh, I had that had to be so. Wow, that's interesting, dude. Because like, there's a little bit of for the audience sake, there's a little bit of Stockholm syndrome. For ours, like. We had the same ones, with the exception of one guy who kind of was there for a little bit and then he left. As far as the drill instructors are concerned, we had the same drill instructors the entire time.
Yeah.
And so as arduous and as, kind of meany as they are to you, you start to develop like this bond. So that had to be extremely unsettling to like constantly have like this new face, like, oh shit, what's this guy gonna be like, right?
Yep.
Like, did they come in fresh and hot?
Oh, they came in hot. Every 2 weeks, you knew you were getting messed up.
Oh,
Every 2 weeks.
Brutal.
Oh, it was awful, man. So yeah, it was always this dread. Like we just knew something was gonna happen, but
that would suck. That would suck so bad.
But at the same time, like. You get a perspective from a variety of different people.
That's fair.
And so they would always pass on their knowledge, as quickly as you could. So you're just trying to absorb it as much as you can. And there's bits and pieces of advice that a lot, I got from various ones that I still carry today, just great life advice. But yeah, no, they would just come in and you knew like you're going to come in from PT and the barracks are going to be flipped.
Right.
So
it's day one the entire time because it's right.
Well, I got a nice scar on my hand from one of them because they ripped apart. There was some bunk beds that nobody was using down at the end of the barracks, so they ripped those apart. We were putting them back together, and there's a little sleeve that inside of them, and I was trying to put it back together. Well, the thing clamped down and just took a huge, like 1/4 inch by 1/2 inch chunk of skin off the palm of my hand.
Yeah.
And so while that was healing, I had to do push-ups just on that crap, and I had one drill sergeant. He's like, I think it was a she. She told me not to do push-ups because she treated it. She's like, don't do push-ups. So I wasn't doing push-ups. Well, everybody else was pushing, so I was doing like these or some crap. I forget what I was doing, but because I wasn't following orders, everybody just swarmed me.
They didn't get the memo.
Get down, get fucking down.
Yeah,
in my face, and I'm like, get down, and I'm just like doing push-ups with this wound on my hand, just
making it extra awesome. Yeah, I'm sure they didn't get that memo.
No, they didn't.
Or they didn't care.
They didn't. I think it was a little bit of both,
You're
actually.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Holy shit, man. That's like I said, I can't imagine that. Well, I can't imagine it would be because I can remember the one replacement that we did have. It was like, man, fuck. Like, what is this dude gonna be like? Because you get used to the other ones. You know, it's like you get used to mom and dad, and you figure out. and obviously they do a good job of keeping you on your toes. But you kind of get, there is that, subtle relationship that you build, and you know how they're going to react and what they're going to do. So yeah, a new face showing up all the time. Wow. That's an extra set of, that's an extra level of anxiety that I'm sure was not awesome.
Yeah, no. Yeah. But you got used to it, and we just we got to a point where we knew what to expect, and it just became part of life. You know, you just knew you were going to have a rough first couple days with this new guy, these new guys coming in. But it is what it is. I think overall it just strengthened our resolve and just made us better. So
yeah, sure, 100%.
Sometimes you got to suffer, make it stronger.
Right, that's the whole point of it. Right, is suffer in unity, and it's. And then at the end, that's why we always look back and it's laugh and it's fun. You know what I mean? Because it sucks at the time, but all that shit's kind of looking back on it. It was fun. I had a good time. I had a good time with it,
dude. I had a blast, man. And I think it's only like 9 weeks for us. And so by the time I remember, so the last week of training, we go through like that field testing. I forget what they call it, but. You go out to the field and you kind of apply everything you learn. But it's summertime down in Oklahoma is dry. Mm-hmm. So, we were supposed to use blanks, but we couldn't.
Yeah, because
it's a fire hazard. Yeah. So we didn't have that. But, I remember, that was my first time actually being out in the field and kind of applying everything we learned. And I remember I was on watch one night, and I think it was our last night out in the field. And I had the watch at like 2 a.m, 3 a.m, right when it's darkest.
Right, fire watch.
And so I'm like laying in my foxhole. The ground is so hard you can't dig a proper foxhole. It's just a hasty one. So you're like just barely below the surface. And I'm laying down in there and I'm just looking out. I see right here. That's it. Right. I can't see beyond that. I can't even see the end of my rifle. And so I'm laying there, just thinking, I'm like, it's last night. They hadn't really messed with us. At this point, they're going to mess with us. So I'm laying there about like trying to stay awake, and all of a sudden I hear something rustling around right in front of me, and I'm like, oh shit, here they come.
Here they come.
They're going to fuck with us now, and I'm waiting for it. And so I'm watching, and I still can't see anything. And all of a sudden I see this white stripe walking right in front of me, like about to trip over my rifle. And I'm like, what the hell is it? I scoot in for a closer look. Damn skunk.
I was going to say, don't tell me it's a skunk.
Yeah, right in front of my face.
Tell me it douche you.
It did not. Thankfully. And I'm sitting there, I was like, oh, shit. This is about to be the worst day of my life. And I'm like,
this is even worse.
Slowly trying to kind of back away from it, trying to get out, get some distance. And it startled it just enough that it took off, but it didn't spray me.
Right.
But it ran right into my tent where my buddy was sleeping.
Bro.
I kid you not. Ran right in there, and I'm like, do I get out of my foxhole to go make sure you get the skunk out of there? Do I stay here? What do I do? And so finally I was like, okay, we could just back up and, keep watch, and I'd go check on him. And by the time I got there, he must have passed all the way through because he wasn't in there at that point.
Oh, can you imagine?
Oh, dude, it was crazy. I thought I was about to have the craziest night of my life.
He would never not smell like that.
No.
For the rest of his life. Inside of a tent, yeah.
You would know that smell for the rest of your life.
So of all the places it could run, oh my gosh, that would suck so bad.
Oh, it was crazy. It was crazy.
And that was the night before. That was one of your last nights?
That was one of my last nights out there.
That is bananas.
Yeah, we came back, and my parents came down for graduation, and that was awesome. Great experience.
Sure.
I remember when we left, we went to Oklahoma City and toured the museum for the Oklahoma City bombing place. I remember that. We went through that, and that was kind of surreal, paid some respects there.
Sure.
But
I have not been.
Yeah. You should go, man. I kind of want to go back and take another look at it. It's been a long time. There's a lot I don't remember, but it's it's a tragedy, and we should got to get out there and see it. Educate yourself.
Sure. Yeah, for sure.
So.
The only I've never seen it in person. I did have the opportunity. I had spent some time with the ATF and about 9 months, kind of like I'll call it a trial period, if you will. Great group of dudes. Their SRT team, hats off, shout out to those guys because they're fantastic. But
yeah.
lot of sitting around the campfire at night or the social hour and trading stories. And one of the guys had been in the office. He was there on that day, so of course I went, tell me everything.
Wow.
And he goes, well, I'll tell you what I remember, and basically to cut it short, he's like sitting in my cubicle 1 minute doing the, kind of everyday mundane shit, whatever, checking emails. Next thing I know, I'm laying on the ground. And when I woke up, basically like, and I'm sure he was slightly exaggerating, but for the, to paint the picture, the end of my cubicle was now outside. Yep. You know what I mean? Like basically like, you envision that whole front of the building being gone. He was like, yeah, a couple more feet and I might not be here type of deal, which was crazy.
Very lucky.
But that would be a sight to see.
Yeah. I remember they had something in there. It was like a recording of a meeting or something like that in the museum they played, on repeat, and you could hear it's like this regular meeting, and all of a sudden just chaos.
Right, pure chaos.
You could just hear when it happens, which I couldn't even imagine.
Unbelievable.
Well, I remember watching that on the news when I was younger.
Yeah,
seeing that. So
yeah, crazy shit, right? Absolutely crazy shit. Well, when you got back, you still had your senior year to go.
Yeah, I had to go to senior year of high school.
What was that like?
So the day I got back, it was honestly, I was in the best shape of my life.
100%.
I know a lot of guys go into the military that kind of, maybe overweight and that stuff, and then they lose weight in basic training. Well, me, I was scrawny. I was a skinny little dude when I signed up.
You packed it on when you were there?
Dude, I gained about 20 pounds.
Yep.
And so the day I got back, I was a football player, so we 2-a-day practices had started.
Yeah, go Marcos.
And I remember I dropped my bags, grabbed my stuff, and went straight to football practice. And I was like, this is a breeze, man. And,
sure.
Dude, it was great. There was no muscle soreness getting back into shape. I was already there. So I was just I loved it. I had a great time.
Grand slam hit with the girls, I'm sure. Right?
Hey, I changed a little bit. But no, it was so awesome. I remember, this is August, right, of 2001. So you know what's coming, and let's just dive into that.
Sure.
And cover that, because I remember I think it was in gym class actually, running laps in the gym, and somebody came up to me. I think it was one of the teachers. I don't remember who it was. Came up to me because everybody knew I was in the National Guard at that point. But they came up and told me, they're like, "Hey, there's a terrorist attack, in New York City. I don't know if you need to make some phone calls. What you need to do." But I was like, yeah, let me go call my unit and just see what's going on. So I remember I called in and they were like, everything's fine. There's no orders yet. Just hang tight, and they're like, you're still in high school, so we can't send you anyway. So just finish school, finish your job training.
Right.
I was like, okay. But, it's still, I was just immediately, I was like, I already had that, desire to just defend the country because, I took the oath, right?
Yes.
And I stood by that. And so that was a crazy day. I just remember sitting there watching it, and, a lot of people, I remember at that time, there's a lot of people didn't understand what my position was and what my responsibility was in the National Guard at that point. They didn't realize that I wasn't going anywhere anytime soon because I needed to finish my job training, go to AIT, and just kind of finish high school. Got to get that diploma first. So they were upset. They were thinking I was leaving tomorrow. They give me hugs and stuff like that. I'm like, we're good, but it's gonna get.
But thanks for the hugs.
It's gonna get dicey here soon, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I remember. I think it was a couple years later, actually. But yeah, it was crazy, man.
I mean, that had to be, especially at that age, right? And because you had asked that question of the recruiter, right? So you had asked the question hey, what are the odds here, right? Which of course he doesn't have he gave an answer. I don't know if he had a crystal ball or what.
I don't know.
You know what I mean?
I had the most honest recruiter, man. It's crazy.
It's there's not a lot of them, right? What that had to be the strangest feeling for a 17-year-old.
It was.
And because I can remember what I felt, and I was already 3 years deep.
Yeah.
I was at least 3 years deep when I kind of turned on the TV that morning. And but I mean, what did your friends say? What did your family say? You know what I mean? Like,
I don't really remember a whole lot of what my family said or a lot of my friends, but I know like my close group, they were all pro-military, and a lot of them were already planning to go Marine Corps. Your brother, Dave, and all them they were planning to sign up. So they were all, we were all very patriotic at that time, and it was very much like, let's go, let's do this.
Sure.
We were ready to go and gun ho with it. And I was no different. I just felt that same way. I was pissed off. And it was just, I remember that first drill going back, and everything changed. We went from, prior to 9/11, air defense artillery, we were still kind of like, studying old aircraft from the Cold War, and stuff like
sure.
that. But now it was like, and it was all kind of laxy-daisy. It was time of peace, right? Nothing was going to happen. The Cold War was over. Nothing was in the future. And then all of a sudden, like night and day, now it's like, wake up, let's get serious.
For realsies.
This is coming. We're going to be going eventually.
Yeah.
And so you saw that attitude shift big time. It was less joking and smoking to more like, nope, you got downtime, get out there, road march, go out there and do this. I mean, we none of us really knew what we were getting into or what was coming, but, we knew we had to prep something. So we were just getting familiar with all the weapon systems and just anything that we could train on, we were getting ready for. Mm-hmm. So we knew something was coming.
Yeah, it's a drastic change in tone and attitude and tempo.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which makes, when you look back on it, then you go, well, Jesus, shouldn't it be like that all the time? Well, then of course you wouldn't keep anybody, because nobody wants to keep that kind of that tempo. Yeah. You know what I mean? I mean, even the Marine Corps, it was the same thing. It's always at an 8. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Or an 8.5, and now it's at a 10, and it's, so I can relate there immediately, because I was on leave, and not leave like home leave. I want to take a couple days and do stuff around the house, so on and so forth, and I can remember the phone ringing, and I kind of did the old up and down, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not answering that, and then it rang again, and then it rang again, and I was like, Jesus Christ, what's going on? And it was actually one of my family members who was like, where are you at? I said, I'm trying to sleep in. Like, I'm home. I'm at my home on base housing. And she's like, you need to get up and turn on the TV right now. Yeah. And so I turned on the TV, and God, I think this was pre-cell phone. I don't think I had a cell phone yet. And as soon as I turned it on, pow, there goes the first plane, and I was like, holy shit, what am I watching? And then boom, the second plane. And I was like, well, we're going somewhere. Yep. Like, that was my thought. Yep. You know what I mean? I was like, we're going somewhere. I should probably go to the office.
Don't know where, but it's coming. It's going to happen
somewhere. Yeah. And being, kind of, like you said, excited, but then there's that sense of, reality. Like, it's all, we're pretend, we're make believe, we're training, okay, now it's going to be for
real. It's real.
Yeah. And it's a very sobering thought.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, how long was it before? So you had to finish school. So at least, how many more months?
Yeah.
Right?
So it was finished the school year. I think it was like May or something like that, and after 9/11, kind of like that, kind of anticipation of going somewhere kind of died down a little bit. It was a lot of active duty going over there. And so, we were it was less of a concern. And so, I graduated and I was slated to go in the fall to AIT, my job training.
And AIT, Advanced Infantry Training, right?
Individual training.
Or individual infantry training,
I think that's what it's called. But yeah, so I was waiting to do that. So I signed up for classes in the summers at the college here, Sauk Valley. Mm-hmm. I was taking classes there and kind of went through that. Went to my job training for Stinger missiles, and went through that whole process down in Texas. It was a blast. Met some great guys. I'm still buddies with one of them. He lives out on the East Coast, and but yeah, we just you starting out, in those experiences, you create lifelong bonds with guys.
1,000%.
Some of these guys, they can call me at any point, and I'm like, "What's up?"
Yep.
It's just like yesterday, and but yeah, and even after coming back from that, it was just kind of just calm, right? I think Iraq was just starting to become an issue. Like, they were starting to hype that up. But it wasn't like anything serious at that point. And I think it was 2002. Yeah. So it was that following spring is when that invasion happened. And that's when that ramp up really kind of kicked off. So, so again, yeah, it was just quiet. We were just drilling. And then all of a sudden, like, it was like, I remember we were at drill and they're like, yeah, we expect alert orders coming through soon, Right. And this is like in the spring, like I think it was like March or May of 2003. And, I was like, okay, I'm ready to go. Let's do this. I was still gun ho and ready to kind of dive into it. But I think I remember the night I got the first call, and that we were on alert status. And I think we were watching Black Hawk Down, the documentary, the actual documentary of it. And I was sitting with Dave actually at his house. We were watching that, and I got the phone call, and I was just like, I remember answering it, and they told me, and I was like, all right. And just looking at me, I'm like, I guess I'm going to Iraq.
Nice.
It was just alert status at that point. It was no guarantee we were going. We hadn't got official orders, but it was just like, hey, this is real now. So, but at the time, I think it was a couple months went by, and then they took us off alert status. So I was like, okay, we're not going. I remember, so then I went down to, there was during the summer, the Galva, Foxtrot 202 ADA out of Galva was going to their annual training down in Fort Chaffee, Arkansas. And so they took a couple of guys out of my unit in Dixon to go transfer down to them to bring them up, in numbers a little bit.
Fill the spaces.
Yeah. So I went down there with them, and they were like telling me, they're like, oh no, we're still on alert. We're definitely going to Iraq, And I was like, and they're like, you're going too. And I was like, I'm not in your unit. I ain't going. I didn't think anything of it. I was like, at that point, I was like committed to like, I can go to college. I can get my, degree. Like that was my focus. I was like, I ain't going. Well, we get back from that. And we're at the unit, and they're like, okay, so we got to get Galva up to full strength. You got to have combat strength for a unit to be able to deploy.
I'm sorry, is Galva an acronym, or is
Galva's a city down in?
Oh, okay,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was like, I've never heard that before.
Yeah, so yeah, it's a city down there. It's a small little town in Illinois, and so but one of the units, Foxtrot, was part of our battalion.
Okay.
So, and so they were like, I remember they asked for volunteers. They're like, who wants to join? 30 of us need to go out of Dixon to go down there. And I was like, 30, that's a small number. I'm like, I really sat back and thought about it. And I'm like, you know what? I really want to focus on college. Like, this is the route I want to take. This is why I joined. So, go to college. Like, I want to do this. I'm like, if they tell me I have to go, I'll go.
Yep.
Hands down. But I'm not going to step up. I'm like, I don't really want to go over there.
That bad, right? Yeah.
I wasn't, I was trying to be smart about it.
Yep.
And so I remember I was sitting in, I was taking a business class at the time. I was sitting in class, and we were on break, and I was sitting in this long hallway at SOC. And we were hanging out with friends in the break area, and we were all talking, and my phone rings, and I looked down, and I was like, okay. I remember the guy who called me, Sergeant McGrath, calls me. He's like, hey, Lilley, I just want to let you know you are not on the list. You're not going. Just report to drill next month as usual. I'm like, hang up the phone. Thank you. Hang up. I'm like, not going. Woo. Everybody's like, oh, thank God. Phone rings again. Hey, McGrath, what's going on, buddy? And he's like, hey, Lilley, I fucked up. You are on the list. He's
made whoopsies.
And he's like, you are on the list. You did report here. Official orders are coming.
Oh my God.
And yada yada yada. And I was like, I hung up the phone. I let out the biggest fuck.
Oh, I
think everybody in the building heard me.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God. Of course that happens to me. But yeah, I remember I walked up to my class, and I was just like, I'm going to Iraq. Right. I just grabbed my books. And I'm like, see ya.
Oh my gosh, dude, that is. It's like I knew it was coming. You know what I mean? I knew that was coming because that's so military typical.
Typical.
Yeah. Hey, you're good. Just kidding. You know what I mean? I made a mistake.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. What a roller coaster,
oh,
right?
Man, I was just like, oh man, you threw me for a whirl for that one, man. I was like,
and not even on purpose.
No,
right?
no. And he was genuine about it. He's not intentional. He's a great guy. I love the guy to death. And he was on the list too. He was going with us, and so.
Well, I was gonna ask too, and it obviously you just nailed it with that story. Like are we going? Are we not? Are we going? Are we not? Like that's because we dealt with that a little bit too, right? Where I was at in 1st Battalion, 5th Marines, it was like get back right now. Of course, no issues there, right?
Yeah.
And it was like, I swear they were just throwing darts at a map. Because every day it was like, you're going to Tajikistan, you're going here, you're going to the fucking moon. You know what I mean? Like you're going everywhere except for Afghanistan. Like almost like they were trying to find a job. Yeah. And, so yeah. And I can remember like I said, that was once again, let's just go. You know what I mean? And of course you have no control over that or whatever, but just to alleviate that kind of finger tapping, when is it, we're going to go. When is it? Let's just hurry up, So I can imagine let alone the phone call followed by the immediate phone call. Just kidding. Holy shit. Yeah. Man. That's awesome.
No, it makes for a great story, but at the time I was not happy about it.
I bet not. Man, I bet not.
We had like a week, I think, before we had to report. So it was just like, all right, let's get our affairs in order and let's get ready to go, And, I remember, I don't remember exactly when it was, but I think you had actually come back from the invasion at that point. Yeah. And because I remember seeing you before you were having a party, welcome home party or something like that. I was there at, and I remember telling you I was going, and you were kind of like prepping me mentally, like.
Oh God, what did I say? Something ridiculous, I'm sure.
For your safety here, I'm not going to mention a lot of it, but
I appreciate that.
But it was you were telling me some stories, and I was just like, I remember it kind of made it real for me, like what I was getting into, and kind of what to expect. So it kind of like prepped me mentally for what was coming. And but I remember that very clearly. Just having beers with you, and you were telling me some stuff, and I was
gonna say, what time of night was it?
I was afternoon. I remember it was still daylight.
Yeah,
it was still daylight, but I think we were several beers into it at that point.
You're right, depending on what time.
So I'm a little fuzzy on it.
Yeah,
but yeah.
Well, I hope I gave you some good nuggets. I mean,
there was one thing you did say. It was like whatever they tell you and train you with before you go there, forget it. Because it's going to change. Be ready for everything to change in a moment's notice. That's one thing you did say, and you know what? We saw that. I saw that day one.
Yeah.
So
yeah, the mental aspect of it, right? Like that is to me, in the world according to me, right? That is 90% of it. Like the physical training that they put you through, the basic training, the basics in the word, right?
Yeah.
In the basics, you fall back to the basics, and they're there for a reason. However, right, need to be super flexible, super unorthodox, and be ready to, throw the rule book or the playbook away.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And that mental preparation, I think that attributes to a lot of. And please tell me if you agree or disagree. It's the people that don't spend an inordinate amount of time mentally preparing themselves for the inevitable, right? And in other words, if you haven't played this movie in your head and then all of a sudden you're thrust into it, then there's not that time to have those mental reps, right? And those mental reps, I think, help individuals in the processing afterwards, right? Like if it's, if I've thought about this and put myself in these situations, a million times in my brain, then when it's happening, it's still a significant personal event, but at least I've thought about it before. It's, does that make sense? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I absolutely would. And to comment on that, I would say like, I played that film in my head prior, like what it's going to be like. And what I did, man, I wish I knew then what I know now. I would have played a different story in my head. The way I saw it was it's going to be guns blazing, victory, all guts and glory.
Yeah, a movie.
But it definitely was not that. I was in for a rude awakening, and keep in mind I was 19. I didn't know anything. I did not have the emotional maturity to understand what I was getting involved in, what was coming, And so, it was just like, I've seen all these, Black Hawk Down. I've seen all these War Wings Platoon, all this stuff. And, I'm just gung-ho. Like, this is going to be great. And it just, definitely wasn't. Anybody who's been there knows it's not like that at all. So
they're definitely. And you couldn't. It's just something that you have to experience, right? You'll never get it right. Until as far as the movie goes, right? In your head, right? And then after you go through it, you spend the rest of your life trying to get rid of the movie that's playing.
Right. You just go away.
Yeah.
I have to work.
I ask, obviously there's a lot of veterans that come on the show. I always ask, because I find it incredibly intriguing, if they remember that first, kind of doors opening or stepping off the plane into that. Like, had you ever been outside of the United States prior to that?
Prior to that, no,
right?
Never been out
anywhere. So your first vacation is to sunny Iraq, right?
Yep.
What was that like, that first, do you remember kind of the thoughts that went through your head when that first step onto the tarmac, if you will?
Oh, man, yeah. I do remember it, and, my first thought was, fuck, it's hot here.
It's hot, yeah, it's the heat.
Because when we flew out, it was, winter here still. It was like late February, early March, and I don't remember exact dates, but it was cold, right? And so landing in Kuwait and opening that door, and it's just like, it's blazing hot, But I remember they took us. We went right in for our first briefing, and they were telling us like, there's that like, you're in combat. This is a combat zone. I'm like, this is Kuwait. No, you're in a combat zone. Grow the fuck up. Lives are at risk here. So, and it was a big shock, and it was like, okay, holy shit, this is real. We're here. It's go time, essentially. But we still had a month before we'd actually make it to country. But, it was, we had a lot of work to do, prep to do before we got there. But yeah, it was right. They got. It was still a shocker.
Yeah, 1,000%, and they got to set the stage right away.
Yeah,
right. They got to set the stage right away.
Get that tone out there. Like this is the way you need to start looking at the world. But what's funny though is they right after that, we were dismissed, and it was like the first, I think it was like time for chow, and we walk out of there, and there's literally like a Burger King truck and a Subway right there, and I'm like, so my first meal in combat is going to be Burger King.
Like pretty badass. Yeah.
Is this really that bad?
Right,
look at it. So I remember I got Burger King. I was like, all right, we're going to do this. This is great.
Yeah. We obviously we didn't we kind of came back to that.
Yeah.
Right. We came back to that, and because there was, I can remember the creature conference. Obviously, we were just, when we got there was literally nothing.
Yeah.
It was just pool table, desert, sand, dig a hole, live in it. The tents are on their way. We didn't even have tents. Excuse me.
This is in country or in Kuwait still?
This is in Kuwait.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
This is in Kuwait. I mean, just like,
so you're like digging into those sand dunes and just like.
I mean, it was a pool Udari Range. It was just a sand pool table, and they're like, just drop your bags. This is where you live.
That's awful.
And dig a hole, and the tents will get here when the tents get here. And I can remember the first. Obviously it wasn't my first time in the Middle East.
Yeah.
So I didn't have like that culture or that shock to the senses.
Yeah, it was a culture shock.
That happened to me the first time I got to the Middle East, previously. But I remember the thing that's the first thing that struck us was about day 3. It felt like somebody was shoving an ice pick into my forehead. And I don't get headaches. I never got headaches, and so it was crippling. I was like, my God, this is like, why do I have this headache, right? And you start looking around, and everybody else is kind of rubbing their temples too. And I said, does everyone, like, are we already getting NBC'd? Like, why does everyone have a headache? Well, we figured out it was because we hadn't had any caffeine. There was no chow hall. There was no anything. We had MREs and no way to heat the water, or so nobody was, I go, we don't have any caffeine. And so everyone's like.
Caffeine withdrawals,
right? And so, because the Rippets, weren't there yet, the little, knockoff Monsters or knockoff Red Bulls or whatever.
You couldn't get Wild Tiger?
I don't even know what that is. Is that the...
Oh, it's some nasty stuff. Well, I mean, I shouldn't say nasty. It was amazing. It was good. It was good and strong, but I think it was from Jordan. Oh, man, that was
But saved like a Red Bull.
You couldn't buy it here. Let's just say
like
that.
Chernobyl. It's like a... Yeah.
There were some things in there you probably shouldn't be drinking.
Probably not, right? But yeah, so we immediately just started ripping into the little Folger coffee packets, that everyone usually kind of threw away, and that, but that's what it was, right? So yeah, coming back to the Burger Kings and the Pizza Huts or whatever they, I think it was Domino's.
Domino's, I think was it. Yeah.
Domino's had the contract, right? You could tell who had the contracts, but definitely like, man, I wish we would have had, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, how bad is this? Well, not bad if you got those creature comforts, but doesn't mean they're not shooting at you.
Well, it kind of messed with me a little bit because I was just like, we just got the doom and gloom, rally talk and the safety briefing
but hey, let's go get a latte.
Yeah, exactly. How bad is this place?
Yeah, exactly.
So, but
well, what was your unit's main objective there? I mean, obviously, other than to seek out and destroy the enemy, like what was your unit's main objective for that deployment?
So, by the time we'd actually gotten to Kuwait, so Saddam had already been captured. We had him in custody.
Okay.
Bush had already declaimed the war won, right? It was over. So we were more in a, I'm going to just say, policing kind of.
Sure, presence.
Yep. Hearts and minds. We're kind of, our goal is to rebuild, train, that sort of stuff. So our primary mission was going to be route clearance, and we were going to be given a zone outside of Baghdad. We were going to be in Baghdad, but our zone was going to be right outside of Baghdad initially, and we just had to keep the route open, clear of IEDs. If anybody shoots at us, obviously engage. But that was our primary mission, was kind of policing essentially. We knew that we were going to be doing some humanitarian aid as well. Water runs. We were going to build some schools and that sort of stuff. Kind of start rebuilding infrastructure. So we were kind of replacing the last of the invasion force that had still been there, and so we were that first kind of like hearts and minds group that was coming in fresh. So that was kind of what we were prepping for. And while we were in Kuwait, we had to get all our. You're gonna love this. We had to get our trucks up, because none of our equipment was up armored. This is all before any of that stuff. And so they came up to us and told us, so like, here's some plywood and some sandbags. Make armor.
Make it work.
And so we called it hillbilly armor.
Sure.
So
that's
we're
what
out
it
there.
is, yeah.
So we're out there making boxes and lining it up on the sides of the truck and filling them with sandbags and stuff like that. It weighed them down so much. The trucks were sluggish. But it was just like plywood and sandbags. Like, this is what we're going to be protected with. Like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But, we made it work. And I remember, like, the way we did my truck, we just had, 2 boxes on the side of the truck. We mounted I think it was we had a 240 Bravo. Might have been a SAW. I don't remember exactly. No, it's a 240 Bravo. Yeah, it was 240 Bravo we had on the back of the truck. So that automatic machine gun.
Yep.
I think 7.62 rounds, and so we had that on the back of the truck, and there was nothing on the cab. I had no doors, so it was just I was my mission, my job within my team was to drive. I was going to drive the truck, and man, let me tell you, that still affects me today.
Worst job ever. Worst job ever in that particular environment.
But honestly, like, I can't drive. I can't be a passenger in any car now.
Yeah, you gotta have control.
I have to drive.
Yeah.
Like, that's my thing, is like, I have to drive. I get car sick, I get irritated, but I have to drive the truck or the car or whatever I'm in. I'm driving.
I get it.
But yeah, so I remember, we got everything prepped, and we had our kind of laughs and good times. We had the tents. We had a little bit better than you, but we had the tents, and I just remember all this being packed in there. I just remember the stink.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just awful.
It gets super ripe real quick.
Dude, it's worse than a locker room, man, after football practice. It was ripe.
I can't imagine what we smelled like. I can't imagine, dude. Because like you said, to your point, like, I can remember after, was it week 1, week 2, it seems like, then you just didn't smell it anymore.
No, kind of, you got used to it, but
I can't fathom what we smelled like. I can't. I honestly can't.
Dude.
I mean,
we still showered, but it's like you're out in the desert. It's hot as hell, and you're wearing long sleeves, and you got your body armor on. You get full kit, Cavalry. You're sweating your ass off, and you just come in, and you just know you reek.
Yeah, for sure, dude. I can remember when we because guys had the baby wipes, you know what I'm saying? Like, and we
Good
had
old baby wipe shower.
a lot of that because we had nothing. To the point to where when we got to the Tigris in Baghdad, like any body of water, somebody was trying to, to bathe, any type of water, right? Because other than that, A, there was no time, and then B, like, once everything was done, like, okay, we have Baghdad, and I'm being self-indulgent, like, we got back, because we can relate, we got back, and there were shower trailers.
Yeah.
And I can remember thinking, man, it's been this many months, I don't even think I care. Like, and I definitely don't, it was like, hey, you get 30 seconds. You get 30 seconds to soap up and rinse off, because there's obviously limited whatever, and just that stipulation, I was like, fuck it, man. I don't even care. I'll do it when we get home.
Yeah.
And then my platoon, everybody went and started lining up, and my platoon sergeant came over and he was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I don't give a shit. I'll go last."
Yeah.
If there's no water left, I don't give a fuck. He was like, "Get up and go." He goes, "You don't just go take a shower." He goes, "You don't want to show up at home stink, whatever." But I cannot fathom what we smelled like.
Oh yeah.
It was gross.
Well, to jump ahead a little bit, I remember a time there was like a month or a month and a half. Like we had laundry over there. I think it was one of the contractors were brought in people to literally wash our clothes for us, and so we just give them the bag and they
That's
wash it
badass.
back. But there was a month there where like it was shut down. There was nobody. It's like a month and a half or something like that. So we had no laundry. So I'm wearing the same BDUs. And it got to a point like the salt was so crusted on it. I remember like you could literally hold it up like it was frozen.
Yep.
It was just so stiff.
Yep. Yeah, and changing colors. You know what I mean? Like getting black. So gross.
Nasty.
So gross. It's and right around the point where you stop smelling it was obviously at the apex.
Yeah.
Where it was like, Jesus Christ, this is grotesque, And then all of a sudden, like, well, nobody got clean, but I don't smell it anymore. It's just like you got to, yeah.
Well, this is getting interesting, man. We're sitting here talking about our stink.
Yeah.
Everybody's gonna love this.
Yeah. No toothbrushes. No. Yeah. It was. It was interesting, right? You have such a Spartan lifestyle, right? And people ask all the time, like, and you always get a weird look, right? I'm sure.
Yeah.
Being in combat or being in a combat environment is sometimes can be viewed as the most simplistic existence on the planet. It really boils down to like, I just have to worry about a few things. Me, the guy to my left and the right, and that's it. And kind of what the next job is, right? And everything, like, I don't care if I get the mail. I don't care about my bills. I don't care about none of that shit, right? And either A, you don't have time, or B, it just isn't there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And, there was probably a certain level of distraction by having those creature comforts, right? And that's one of those arguments that you can't win.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, do you need the creature comfort? Sure, that's badass. At least you have some of those things, right? But if you don't, there's some pros to that as well because you're singularly focused.
Yeah.
Everybody's bitching. Everybody wishes they had those creature comforts, but if they're not there, it's where are we going? What do we need to do next? And that was, and we'll get into this because I think your guys' job there was infinitely harder than ours. And the reason why I say that is we had in the initial invasion, it was just destroy it.
Yeah.
The end.
Yeah.
And I can honestly say I had a little bit of a problem, and not a problem with it like from like I don't want to say a morality standpoint, right? But I thought we would be a little bit more strategic and, so destroying everything was, in my opinion, easy. And I'm not saying that, people didn't suffer. I'm not saying we didn't have casualties, but like the overall objective was go to Baghdad, secure Baghdad. If anybody looks at you the wrong way on the way there, destroy them, destroy it.
Yeah.
So I can remember writing in my journal, like, this is just scorched earth. Like we are just destroying everything in our path, right? And that's what the Marine Corps is here to do.
Yeah.
But I did struggle with it, because I was like, man, are we doing more harm than good right now? Like, and how much can, what do I know? I'm fucking 20 whatever years old, a young sergeant. But what you guys had to do in a nutshell is you guys had rules and rules hamstring more than they, right? And so I don't know if you want to kind of unpack that, but we didn't have any rules, and that's a very simplistic way. I mean, we had obviously rules of engagement, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, and before I forget, I do want to. You said one thing there I want to touch on before we start diving into that. You said, it was about, you talked about like the guy to your left and right and stuff like that. In the National Guard, we're all from the same area. It's not like you got guys from all over the country. We were all from this area. A lot of us went to high school together. We knew each other. We grew up together.
Played each other in sports. You name it. Yeah, like
our wives hang out. That's that sort of thing. It was just like, we were already a family. So and so like we had brothers, even with us. So you had whole families essentially. I think that was our strength, because
without a doubt.
Because for us, it was about getting all of us home. That was, for us, our primary mission. We want to get over there. We want to do the job. Yeah. Like that, we're going to do the job, but we want to make sure we're going to bring everybody back home alive. We knew we were going to be in pieces, but for us, we wanted to get everybody home, and so that was, that was our strength, I think. But yeah, I remember, so we can dive into some of those rules there. I remember, and this kind of kicks off like the day we went into country from Kuwait. And I remember they were telling us, it was just like, you don't fire unless fired upon. Watch out for IEDs. You're not here to do what you guys did. You're here to we're trying to win hearts and minds. They really preached hearts and minds to us. And so that was in our mindset, be kind to the population and just, we obviously we want to weed out, the bad guys, any terrorists and fight them. But, ultimately we're here for law and order. And that's what we're here to do. I think the search for WMDs was still kind of going on there at that point. It was starting to, I think, getting in question. But, that was also, sub kind of thing we're keeping an eye out for. But ultimately it was like, you're not here to go in and just start shooting people. And, but at the same time, I had it in my mind at that point, just this whole like buildup that as soon as you cross that border, guns a-blazing.
It's right, it's free fire zone, right.
We're going to be getting hit. And, I remember crossing into it and then, because there was a big berm at the border of sand.
I remember
we crossed past that. And then that's when my first exposure to actually seeing Iraq and just seeing it was just all open desert. I was like, oh, okay. All right. We're just gonna be driving for a while. It's like, but we're looking, there's like nothing, but I just remember driving through the sand dunes and stuff like that. And we didn't see anything. It was just peace and quiet, and just cruising and, but we're all like pins and needles, man, thinking like at any point, like there's gonna be an IED going off. This is gonna happen, yada, yada, yada. And it was just nothing. We got about halfway there and camped out one of the bases there, and again nothing happened. It was just the biggest buildup and nothing.
It's pretty normal. That's pretty normal.
But then that second day, man, we kind of, that's when things kind of got real for us because we entered Baghdad that day, and I remember I was driving the truck. And as we were coming into the city, we there was one point there we got deep into the heart of Baghdad, and at that point, like I carried a M203 grenade launcher, like that was M16 with the grenade launcher underneath. I love that. Oh, I love that gun so much.
Yeah, it's what Arnold carried in Predator for the audience. Everyone,
that was a fun man.
It is a fun gun.
But I'm driving. I got the M203. And, I had it sitting over here as we were coming to the city, but I grabbed that thing. I put it on my seat. I loaded it around in there, and I was just like, we're going to just keep that tube loaded. I'm just prepped. Thinking, like, we're getting into Baghdad. It's going to get froggy. And I'm driving through the city, and literally cars are right next to us. I could literally reach into the car next to me as I'm driving.
Yep.
And I'm, like, trying to keep my rifle in so I don't hit the barrel on that car. And we were just scraping mirrors the whole way through there. And I'm just like, looking back on it, I'm like, that was dumb. That was stupid that we did that because, car bomb easily could have gotten us. And that was our first exposure to the population, really. And we just did not know what we were getting into. And I don't remember the exact route we came in, but I don't think it was the best route that we came in. But
you probably didn't get it right the first time.
Yeah,
right.
I think I want to say, I'm not even gonna say it, but. Yeah, it was. I think we might have taken a wrong turn at some point too, and got a couple of us got separated. So, but we all made it there, and we pulled in, and they had already. So we were at right outside the palace essentially. I know you were there at some point.
Yep.
And they had just gotten the trailers all set up for us. The chow hall was in the process. This big chow hall building was in the final stages of being ready. I think they were just getting all the food and kind of kitchen stocked. Yeah, like,
all within like the palace walls there.
Yeah, we were just so you remember the moat, the big pond around the palace.
Oh, okay, yeah, different palace than I was in, but I'm tracking on which one you're talking about.
Okay, so yeah, we were at the main palace there, and so we were just off the side of that, and I think he had a zoo over there too.
He did,
and so we had taken that place over, and it had become just our barracks and stuff like that. So they had trailers for us, and we got our room assignments, and I don't even remember where we were eating. I think we were eating MREs at that time, but I think we only had to wait a week before that chow hall was open. So. But yeah, it was just kind of get set up, and I think we took a little time to kind of get acclimated to where we were at, and I remember that first night, sometime in that first week, I don't remember exactly when it was, but we heard mortars coming in for the first time, and that's when it was really the eye opener for us. It was like, oh, yep, we're on the receiving end now.
Yeah, we were talking earlier outside of the studio. What you said, you had a mortar hit your trailer or your pod or what you did?
Yeah. That was later on towards the end of the deployment. But yeah, we had internet actually in our trailers. So I had my laptop. I remember I was sitting talking to my mom, and she's gonna hear this story. Well, not be happy, but for the first time. But she
sorry, Mom.
I was talking to her, through a chat, and we started hearing, we'd been here a while at that point. I'd heard incoming plenty of times.
Sure.
And, you're just like, is it close? Nah, okay.
I'm good.
Yeah, we're good. And so I'm just chatting away with her, and I hear it just kind of creeping in a little, getting a little louder, a couple more, and all of a sudden, I heard one, and it was still kind of off, and then all of a sudden I hear whack right above me, and I was like, the hell was that?
Bro.
And I was like, Mom, I'll be back.
Yeah.
I go outside, I open the door to my trailer, and there's literally a mortar sitting on my step.
Wow.
It had come in and hit my roof right above me, about a foot over from where I was sitting. Hit my roof, hit the rafter, bounced out, and landed on my front step.
It's just sitting there cooking.
And just sitting there. And I was just like, holy shit, everybody get the fuck out. We ran out of there. And EOD came in and picked it up. And at that point, I had my kit on. And I think I was like in shorts, and just that was it, and kit and helmet. And we were in the bunker at that point and waiting for them to clear it. And he comes over and he's like, whose trailer was this? And I was like, that was mine. And he comes over and he just throws it right at my feet. I'm like, what the hell are you doing?
He just came over and picked it up like it was a rock.
Yeah. He just threw it at my feet, and he's like, they didn't arm it.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, what? He's like, you have to twist it. Yeah, they didn't do that. It's perfectly good, but they didn't arm it.
Yeah.
So I was like, he's like, you're very lucky right now.
Bro, yeah.
So I was like, holy crap, man. That close. It's
crazy when that shit happens, right? Because what are the odds, right? Thank God.
Yeah.
Obviously. What are the odds?
Laura was watching out for me that day, man.
Yeah. It's, PFC or private first class Iraqi, whatever, forgot to arm it before he dropped it in the tube.
We just called him Rocket Man.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That's what we call him.
I believe
all the time.
And then you expect the EOD personnel, who I have the utmost respect for.
Well, they got some balls, man.
Right, super, balls that clank. And you expect them to come over like in the movies in the suit and cordon off, and because they're subject matter experts, and he could tell probably from 10 feet away of what was going on. So now he's going to fuck with you by throwing it at you. You know what I mean, right?
I'm sure he was getting a kick out of that, seeing me swerve. That was literally the only time I'd ever put on my kit and got in a bunker. With the, because the first night we were, that first time we had mortars coming in and rockets coming in, they were far off. You could hear them. Mm-hmm. You just got used to it. You got used to it. The only time I really kind of had caution, I was fueling up my truck one time, and I was, they had the big fuel bladders sitting above ground, and I was like in the process of fueling up, and there was, a couple 100 yards away, a mortar was landing, and I was just like, all right, we'll just stop this, and I just walk over, and got out of there. I'm like, if it's gonna hit me, it's gonna hit me, but
yeah,
I just didn't want to be standing next to the fuel pod.
The fuel ladder, right? When that would be a bad day.
So
yeah,
ordnance, you just get used to it.
Yeah, and it's amazing what that new normal becomes, right? Like if you've never experienced it, you're probably sitting there being like, what in the blue fuck? But it happens quicker than you think.
It does.
It really happens fast, how quickly you get used to, and like you said, being able to tell or having that auditory, is it close? Like you're making that assessment based off the sound and the rapport and, whether I should seek cover or not, or maybe you start off seeking cover immediately and then you slowly like, I'll probably be good. You know what I mean? Yeah. You make peace with it, and
your ear really develops a fine understanding of incoming and outgoing.
Mm-hmm.
You can know the difference just in an instant. You just know what's happening, and so it was just like, it's always funny when you see new guys. You see new guys coming in, and they're you hear outgoing out, and they're all like running for the bunkers, like
right.
Like look at these guys, I remember when we were like that.
Yeah. A month ago or whatever. Yeah.
That was just like, we don't care. It's just like, go ahead.
Yeah,
get us out of here.
No shit, right? Yeah, I've had, you talk to in all the conflicts, right? If you've like Vietnam, Korea, you name it, obviously a lot of the World War II guys are starting to go away, and unfortunately some of but it's all conflict is conflict in certain aspects, right? And every anyone that's been in a combat zone will share these same stories, right? And it's a very, common denominator across the board, which I think is fascinating, right? And how many times have you heard that story about the mortar? Hey, the mortar round basically came through the roof of my deal. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And didn't detonate. And probably happens more often than you think. As often as I don't have to tell you, it happened to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think the closest one I ever had was I was in Jalalabad, and I say close, like I don't want to say when you're not expecting it, like, I wasn't expecting mortars, in this place where I was at. Not that they weren't possible, but it wasn't like a daily occurrence.
Yeah.
Every now and again they'd get lucky or whatever. Well, I happened to be walking out of the office, and there was this big concrete T-wall, and on the other side of that T-wall was the airstrip for Jalalabad. And you could hear it, and I just kept walking. I was like, yep, whatever. But then when it landed right on the other side of that T-wall. Yeah. And I was like, ooh, that was super close. Like had that T-wall not have been there, I might have spilled my coffee, type of deal.
Yeah.
And I remember, my shoulders kind of went up, and I was like, oh, shit, that was close. And I looked over to two other individuals who I'll just say were not seasoned combat veterans. And I just immediately about-faced and went back indoors. Because where there's one, there's more.
There's always more.
Right?
Yep.
And the next one might be, that if they're bracketing, the next one might be on our side of the fence. And as I'm walking, and I didn't take off running or anything, I probably should have, but I just turned around and started walking back in, shoulders still kind of glued to my ears. And those two individuals, two females, they were like, should we go inside? I said, I'm gonna. You know what I mean? Like you can do whatever you want, but I'm going inside. And they're like, okay. And of course they came running in. But yeah, incoming is makes things interesting, right?
You pucker up real quick.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was always interesting because we knew where they were firing from, or at least a general area. It was our zone. We were always watching for them. We were always trying to find Rocket Man, and but they would just pull up in a car, lob a few rounds off, load up, and take off. Yeah. By the time we could even get close to where they were firing from, they were already gone. Yeah,
and they don't have to be effective. They just have to send them.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter what it hits. It's just fingers crossed.
It didn't help that they had a reference point for where we were at.
Sure.
There was a blimp that was hanging.
Oh yeah.
Right behind my trailer. So they had a target for right where I was at. Yep. I was like, you bastards.
Yeah. Either move me or move the blimp. Yeah. You take away their aiming stakes.
Like, why'd you have to put that right here? There's a big empty field over there. You can put it over there. Yeah, so they knew where we were at, and I mean, come on, everybody knew we were at that point. We had locals coming in on the base, working already at that point, and
who were probably acting as FOs.
I'm sure they were,
bracketing them in. Yep.
You never trusted any of them, but I remember all that stuff. It was So much fun, man.
Well, take me and the audience through. So what is an average day like for on that deployment, right? So the objective was COIN or counterinsurgency, hearts and minds, peacekeeping, occupational force. So what's putting you on Route Irish? What's putting you on the road?
So before we even get to Route Irish, so I'm going to break up my deployment into like 3 sections, right? So we have the first, I want to say I think it was like 6 months. We were in right outside of Baghdad International Airport. We were patrolling the country. It was a main supply route that came through there. Abu Ghraib prison was right up at the north end of our zone, and we kind of pushed out several miles out into the countryside, all the way down south, several miles down to just like the southern edge of Baghdad. But we had this whole road, right? And so essentially our job was, once we finally got out on mission, was just drive around, And I just remember, one thing that sucked about this was we were on, our mission schedule was 12 hours on, 24 hours off.
Okay.
So you went from day mission, day mission, night. Your sleep patterns were just gone. Mm-hmm. It was a mess. So you're always tired, but driving, I would literally just drive in the same 5-mile stretch at about 20 to 30 miles an hour, just round and round and round for 12 hours. And there was a lot of fighting, but at the same time, there was a lot of downtime.
Right.
It was just, you would just drive for weeks on end and not see a single thing, and it just gets mundane and boring. And those times are the hardest, because that's when you start to get lax, right? You start to
without a doubt,
you mentally start to let your guard down a little bit. And then, it took us a couple fights to know that's when they're going to, we need to expect it at that point.
Sure.
It's coming. We know it's coming. So, but so it was just that and that and that. And for the first few weeks, and then I remember the first night we got hit. I was actually off on that mission. So one truck would kind of rotate out and get a couple days off to kind of recalibrate a little bit. So my platoon was out. They were doing patrols. And I hear on the radio that they'd been hit. One of the trucks took an RPG. And so they proper ambushed us. So they had set up in one of these schools out in the countryside.
Well, I thought they weren't supposed to do that.
Oh yeah,
right?
Yeah, they don't do that at all.
They don't do that.
No,
ever.
they had guns in every window, and we were patrolling past it, and there was a canalway between us and the school. So if you don't know anything about those canalways, they're steep. It's full of water. You're not getting a truck through it. It's you could stand in it and not see over top of it.
Yep.
And they're narrow, but again, it's deep. So they knew that. It was a great position. They were well protected. We couldn't get to them, but we could definitely return fire. And but yeah, it was dark, I think, and they chewed up our guys pretty good. We had a couple guys get injured that night. Especially the driver. He took the RPG right to the front of his windshield, right in front of him, and one of the boys got shrapnel on the back of his head, but yeah, I remember when they came in, man. I saw the truck, and I was pissed. I was so pissed. I was like, "Let's go," and that kind of kicked off the Battle of Holy Week for us. It was right after that. That's when we started getting all of our IEDs hitting us. I was literally watching. We go out on patrol. We'd drive into the truck right in front of me, would just blow up. Get hit. And they were effective at hitting us, but a lot of times they weren't effective at actually getting through to injure any of us. So they might disable the truck. We just get a new truck. Guys were fine.
Right.
A little rattled in the head, but we just kind of roll with it. And so we were very fortunate in that aspect. I think they were still kind of learning at that point and refining, how
their tactics
with it, and kind of how they were building them. And because you could see that progression, they just got better and better at it. But the Battle of Holy Week happened. And so Battle of Holy Week was the week leading up to Easter, that whole week. And it was, and I'm going to be honest, I don't remember much. Like my head, I don't know if I folded it or intentionally block it out or whatever, but there's bits and pieces that I do remember. I remember barely sleeping.
Well, and that's 90% of it right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I got a photo. I took a selfie with not a cell phone, but a camera, an actual camera. I took a selfie of me of at the end of that, my last mission during that battle, and I don't recognize me at all. Like I showed my wife, and she was just like, "Whoa," completely somebody different. And like, my eyes are black.
Yep.
But it was very intense. So leading up to that, they knew that there had been a change out in the troops here. So, we were the new guys. They knew that. So they've been watching us all this time leading up to that, kind of understanding how we work and kind of where our vulnerabilities were at. And that's when all hell broke loose, man. And literally it got so bad, they shut down all the routes, all the supply routes. Everything was shut down, nothing coming in, nothing going out. And I remember there was a convoy. I was off at this point, and I looked out over the skyline, and the whole skyline was black. Everything was burning, and it was all in our zone. I think I think maybe 1st platoon was out there. I was in 3rd, but I think it was 1st platoon that was out there. They were just getting chewed up. There was a convoy that come through full of oil tank or not oil, but fuel tankers, supply trucks, all this stuff. All of them burning. That's what we were seeing. Everything was on fire. Everything was just tore up. And like, I remember I got out there, so they told us that we were QRF, Quick Reaction Force. So we were to back up the other platoon. So I remember they called us out there, and I remember getting out there, and it was just carnage, man. Yeah. Everything, like I said, everything was on fire. You're like weaving in and out of trucks, and you could feel the heat burning.
It's apocalyptic.
Yeah. And I found out later, I don't know if it was, I can't remember exactly when this happened, but I found out a little bit later that this had happened. We had actually, one of our platoons was out there engaged, just heavy combat. They were lining in the canalways in the reeds there and just shooting, lighting us up. And we had air support come in. I remember we had a couple of Apaches come in and we're just lighting things up. Well, they were getting us air support. And again, I wasn't out there. This is just what the guys told me. One of those Apaches got shot down in the middle of that. And can you imagine, like, just being in a heavy firefight, your air support's here, and Apache goes down.
Yeah, it's demoralizing.
That sucks the fight out of you real fast. Like, you're in some shit. And the other one bugged out because at that point, he lost his wingman. And but it's those guys, both the pilots, died that day. And we, I don't remember their names exactly, but I don't. I know a lot of the guys, they memorialize them every year, for their sacrifice and watching over us for what they did. But yeah, I remember going out there, we saw the wreckage of that, it was chaos. And it was just a week of just nonstop fighting. Like I said, I don't remember much of it. I remember the last battle we had. We came back in to the gate, and fighting had kind of died down out in the zone. But when we got back in there, we were sitting there right at the gate. We were kind of just like shifting our gear, trying to figure out what was going to happen next, if we were going back out or we were done. Like, we were waiting for orders, what to do next. And all of a sudden, like, we hear that snap.
Yep.
And everybody's like, what the hell was that? And it's just, ta, 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 ta. And we had some Abrams that had just come in. That turret turned around, boom!
Yeah.
Just took out this like hut that was, kind of down in the field there. It just blew that to sky high. And it was on. And my buddy, I think he's a police officer here in Dixon now. He took a bullet to the back of the head, and it hit right in his Kevlar. He took his helmet off. He got it out behind the truck. Took his helmet off. You could see the bullet. Like it was just touching his scalp. He was very lucky, but he was also another 203. He had a 203, so he was like, he had spent all of his grenades out, in the last fight. I still had a can of grenades. So he's like, get your grenades. I had 2 of them. I'd come running up there, and we're just lobbing grenades off, just like having a good time. But yeah, it got intense here for a little bit. And, then everybody, ceasefire, and that was it. And we're like, okay, we're going inside now. Let's get the hell out of here. So we cleared out of there, and that was that. But then it literally just became like every day it was just like, you're going out there, you're doing route clearance, right? You're looking for car bombs, you're looking for IEDs. anything in on the side of the road that just looks suspicious.
Yeah, and I was gonna say for the audience sake, like when you say we're looking for IEDs, what were some of the things you're looking for? Weight, like when you look at the vehicles, right? When you're scanning out somebody, like I always say, like I can walk into a room and I have a certain set of sunglasses on, or I have a certain set of lenses on. Like I'm going to look at a room and I'm going to look for security, entryways, exitways, right? Scanning for threats, corner to corner, ceiling to floor, head to toe, hands, waistline. Mm-hmm. But if I have an electrician walk next to me, he's seeing it as he's seeing that room or that structure as an electrician. Yeah. Like he's looking at it through those lenses, right? So when you're looking for VBIDs, like what are you're looking for weight distribution or certain please.
Yeah, so you're literally looking. You can see it. The back end of that car is squatting down, right? Or just overall it's sitting lower than normal, and you got one passenger, one person in there, driver.
Profusely sweating.
But he would stay back far enough you can't see that. Or you would, a lot of times, what we would see is they would just leave a car sitting alongside the road.
Sure. Immediate red flag.
Immediate red flag. We're shutting down the highway. We're going over there. We're inspecting that thing. And, that's how we found our first one, was the car sitting alongside the road. And you could see, I remember one of our guys we had a sniper rifle with us. They put the scope on it, and we could see a cell phone or a detonator hanging from the rear view mirror. And so they shot that out. And then they were EOD was able to bring in their robot and put the explosives in there and detonate it. But, it was just like, you could just, if there was a car on the side of the road, you knew.
Yeah, automatically. Until proven otherwise.
It's a bomb.
Yeah.
So, and I actually have a crazy story here for you about one of those car bombs. I had some Marines actually save my life, and they don't even know it. We found this car bomb, and it was just outside of Abu Ghraib prison, just down the road from them. And so we found the bomb. We cordoned off the area. I was off on a side road, and had everything shut down. Well, these Marines came through, and so I had to back up, move. They kind of came through. They were in the next zone over, and I pulled back forward, but I moved my truck over about 4 feet. That act saved my life.
Wow.
So when we detonated that car bomb, we were all hunkered down, watch it blow up. And I got video. I was like, video camera footage of this.
Sure.
And you can hear this piece of shrapnel come flying through the air. You just, it blows, a couple seconds go by, you hear nothing, and all of a sudden you just hear on the audio, zzz, ping.
Yeah.
Landed right where my seat was parked.
No shit.
Right where I was at. And I remember, you could see it on camera. It's a big piece of the artillery shell. It's about that big, edges razor sharp. Another day.
Yeah, you're right.
Just another day.
And like you said, it's so crazy when you look back, there was no rhyme or reason. That was just pure chance. Hey, I got to move so that these jarheads can get through and do God knows what. You know what I mean? And that, like you said, that simple act, they're just, I always tell people, once again, the world according to me, I don't care how highly trained you are. I don't care if it doesn't matter. If you're ninja, it's going to help, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. Yep. And it's just chaos. Yep. And,
there's no rhyme or reason to it.
There's no rhyme or reason. You can be the toughest thing on two legs, have more shingles in your, you know what I mean? Like I said, Ninja Jesus. And it could just happen.
Yep.
You went left instead of right or what have you. Yeah. And,
you just happened to be the third guy on there on the stack, and they had the clear shot at you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I mean, and I think there's always those handful of guys it doesn't matter what unit that you're in, right? Yeah. Tier 1 all the way down to, cook maker, candlestick maker, whatever, right? Yeah, but there's going to be a handful of people in that unit that are like the alphas of that unit. And then when one of those, catches an unlucky round or, steps on this or went left instead of right, and it's that drives that point home even more. Well, how did it happen to him? Yeah. He was one of our best, and like I said, it's a very sobering and surreal feeling to be like, oh, this is all just most of this is chance.
Yeah.
Most of this is chance and luck.
It really is. It really is.
Yeah. So yeah, it's very, very fortunate to come out of it after, whether it's 1 deployment, 10 deployments, you name it, with 10 fingers and 10 toes, right? Because it definitely could have gone the other way.
But yeah, so to get back to what we were talking about there with the kind of how you can identify, like, that not just car bombs with the IEDs, you're looking for like any disruption in the soil alongside of the road. There was one time, we saw that disruption in the soil and we stopped to investigate it, and we didn't find anything there. But we happened to look down. My gunner looked down. He was clearing the area around my truck. He looks down and he's like, I think there was a dead dog right beside us, right literally underneath my truck at the edge of it. He goes, I think that dog has a wire sticking out of the side of it.
Fuck. Yeah.
And I was like, he's like, we should move. And I was like, oh, get the hell out of here. Pull forward. Turns out, it had an artillery shell in it. It was set to go. The wire ran out to the reeds, and just nobody was manning it.
Wow, so, dude. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, we had to wait for EOD to come out and blow that. It's just stuff like that, man. You find a garbage bag, alongside the road, and it had something in it. There was no, formula to it. It was just anything and everything that was alongside the road that was kind of out of place.
Yeah.
Or sometimes it looked in place. One key factor that we did start to notice and catch on to was they would have some sort of marker nearby. So you would see, like, it would be a goat tied to a pole.
Yep.
In the middle of nowhere. There was a bomb there. If there was a culvert, they would fill it full of stuff. And they could see the culvert, so they knew when you're driving over it, and they would blow that. So it was always culverts. It was always anything that had like a flag to it, that on the side of the road, a marker that they could use to identify. Like, okay, now we know which truck is going to go. When they're going, we can time it perfectly.
Yeah, they're aiming stakes, so to speak.
Yeah,
right?
aiming stakes, exactly what they are. So they kind of got better with it, and we took our beating.
Sure.
Say, so.
Well, they're primitive, but they're not dumb.
No, they're
right?
not. No,
and
they're not.
That was another.
They were always adapting, man.
Yeah, and they didn't have a choice.
Yeah,
like you flip the script. Like, I wouldn't fight me toe to toe.
No.
I say me, us. I wouldn't fight us toe to toe either.
I wouldn't either.
I
would not either. If I was in their shoes, I would do exactly the same thing they were doing.
1,000%.
So
yeah, 1,000%.
Because it's effective. You can set that stuff off. You can mount an attack real quick and then disappear. You're not in uniform. All you do maybe move a building, or you could just stand right where you're at and just drop everything. And just go, oh.
Yeah, just be like, it wasn't me. Yeah,
over there.
Right. Yeah, super frustrating, man. Because like I said, going all the way back to the initial question, like that would be. It's such a different, same place. My experience, night and day difference from yours.
Yeah.
Simply due to the rules and the objective.
Yeah.
Right. So I hold you guys up in high regard because we really didn't have to deal with the IEDs. Yeah. We really didn't have to, once again, it's just like I can remember having the conversation, hey, military age individuals, that's your ROEs.
Yeah.
And of course, not to be the guy to raise his hand in the group setting, but definitely off to the side, I was like, well, what does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
And if they're strong enough, and the answer I got was, if they're old enough and strong enough to pick up a weapon system, then it's cleared hot. I'm like, so basically everyone.
Pretty much.
So the absence of those, rules made things, fairly simple, and it wasn't until the end or getting close to the end where the rules started to change rapidly and not necessarily in our favor.
No.
You know what I mean? And so mad respect to you guys and everyone that came in the subsequent deployments afterwards, because that would be rough. It would be difficult, fighting with rules because they're not following any.
No.
They're not following a single one. No. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it was always kind of tough, man, but as you're going through it, and this goes back to what I said earlier, it's like you have to throw out what you were trained and what you knew. I mean, there's a lot that's still applied, but you have to change your tactics to adapt what they're doing. And we were seeing that in real time. It was just like, okay, they're doing this. We're going to change this about what we're doing. So, And you combat it for a little bit, and it was effective, but they would change again. So you're always adapting. So.
Yeah. And how long was it? A 6-month deployment total?
Year.
Oh, you were a year in country.
Yeah, a year in country. A year and 10 days exactly in country. So,
yeah.
So about halfway through actually is when your brother actually showed up, and I actually got me and Tim Bowman got to
go track him down.
Go
so
track him down.
Yeah.
They were getting ready to head to Fallujah, and
good luck.
Yeah. We were laughing with them.
I heard that place sucks.
And I remember when they went over there, that whole push that happened over there, we were sitting on OPs, and we would, at night we would see the night sky light up. We were watching the show from Baghdad. You could see it from there. It was crazy. So I know they got into some tense shit over there. But
yeah, that was a doozy. That had to been, and because I've had similar experiences, but I won't kind of steal the show. How cool is that to link up, right?
Dude, it was the greatest feeling because coming from Polo, a small town in northern Illinois that nobody's ever heard of, meeting up with your buddies from high school on the other side of the world in the middle of a combat zone.
Yeah, it's pretty neat, right?
Oh, it was surreal, man. And being that we had already been there 6 months, it was like it was a morale booster for us. So it was a little bit of home coming over there. So
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I had go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
I said I had a very similar story. One of my high school, very very close friends. Same kind of. He was in a different unit, obviously, but I knew which unit he was in, and I could identify. So anytime we got a chance or had a little bit of downtime, like I would go track him down.
Yeah.
And just peek my head in and be like, "Hey, man, you good?" or whatever. Like just to have that, and then of course identifying what he was driving, and so like. I can remember being in my sniper perch on the Palace, and I'd look out and be like, "Oh, there's my buddy. He's driving that." You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's cool. Other side of the planet, and such a surreal experience, and you have, people that you shared all your normal experiences with. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool, man. But yeah, it was about that time though. We switched zones, so we left. When we were over there, we were with the 1st Cav. My unit was attached to the 1st Cavalry Division out of Texas in Fort Hood, Texas. So we were with them. So they transferred us to another battalion, and that changed our zone. That's when we went to Route Irish. So we left the countryside and got into the city. And we had heard stories about this place. Like it was nasty. We knew we were kind of getting this was, we were getting into it, and it was. I think. We had kind of developed a reputation at that point for, like, we would follow rules of engagement. We didn't do anything stupid, but we also, you fucked with us, you were going to find out.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't hold back at all. You took that one shot, that's all we needed, and you had a wall of lead coming at you.
Yep.
And so we kind of developed a reputation for that. So they put us on Route Irish, the most dangerous road in the world at the time. I remember there's a picture. I remember going around with the bus that would go between the airport to the green zone.
Yep.
It was all peppered up and tore up, but it was all steel, just a steel tank bus that would go down that road. That's where we were at.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said earlier, it was like you knew small arms, RPGs, IEDs, or car bombs. It was like a lottery. It's like throw a dart at the wall.
What's going to be today? Yeah, you're getting something. Yeah.
And so it was nonstop with that. Every day. It was 8 hours a day for like 3 months. It was just that every day. And, that was the most car bombs I'd gone through. And we found less of them on the side of the road, and they hit us with more.
Mm-hmm.
We had Bradleys attached to us at that point. And just because the situation, the area we were at, and they'd upgraded us from the hillbilly armor to actual up armored trucks. We had actual like steel plates, the bulletproof windows, all that stuff on the sides, and gave us some air conditioning as well in the truck.
Oh, nice.
So we kind of upgraded. We went from the the Camry to the Bentley. It felt like
right.
So.
yeah. But oh, by the way, you got to drive it down Route Irish.
Yeah. This is why we're giving it to you.
This is why we're, it's when they bust out the pizza and you're like, oh, we're going for sure now. They're feeding us pizza.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But yeah, it was like, there was one day I remember, we had, our Bradleys just took a beating, man. They targeted those left and right. We had 3 car bombs in one day. And they, targeted the Bradleys. Always went after those. And, we were cleaning up the aftermath of one. And one of the other patrols was heading back to base. And they, I remember my buddy was going right underneath the overpass. And they blew up another car bomb right on top of them. It was on the overpass. It just blew a massive hole in it, and they came out the other side just like, dust and everything. They were fine. Nobody got injured, but, it's a car bomb above you. Like, now you got to worry about that too. Yeah. So we were always concerned like they would just throw grenades or rocks at us. And by the way, I don't know if you ever had this horrific experience, but a rock to the face at 30 miles an hour is not something you want to see. I've seen plenty of it. Everybody's like, oh, rocks are fine. They don't hurt anybody. No, it hurts.
Yeah.
It'll kill you.
Yeah, 100%.
And so, I saw a lot of that, and it was, just that car bomb. We had 3 of them. I remember that day, like, we had, because of that, for OPSEC, I'm not going to get into that one. We're going to skip that part.
Okay. No problem.
But, there's a good story there too, but it was just I remember sitting there talking with our interpreter was there, and we had 2 car bombs that gone off, and him and I were sitting there talking, and we were like, what the hell's going on? And then boom, another one. It's like, what the fuck is happening today? Like, how we made it through there. But I remember at one point there was body parts laying alongside the road from the bombers. Yeah, like their pieces. There was a leg that was right outside the gate, and I'll never forget the smell of that thing. Nobody cleaned it up. It was just laying there. And just that rotting in the, August heat in Baghdad.
Yeah, before the dogs find it and start chewing on it. Yeah.
You'll never forget that shit.
Yeah, for sure.
And, it was just, that was daily life out there on that road. I remember there was one patrol, I took an RPG. I got out of the driver's seat, and I got up in the turret that night, and I'm watching the houses, and had an RPG come, and it dropped right just like maybe 5 feet on the outside of my truck, and it was enough. I felt the concussion, knocked me off my feet. I fell back into the turret, and I popped back up, and I was just dropping rounds downrange. Didn't really have a clear target, but we knew exactly the street it came down from. So we exited, got off the highway there, and kind of went chasing after the guy. We ended up catching the guy too. Well, it turns out, and I didn't know this at the time, we thought we were fighting al-Zarqawi's guys, organized terrorists. No. Apparently, al-Zarqawi's guys had kidnapped this guy's family.
Yeah.
And said, go out, fight Americans.
Or else.
Or we're going to kill them.
Yeah. A lot of that.
And once I learned that, I was like, that changed everything. Like you started to like, who am I killing here? Who am I fighting? Is it actually, a terrorist? Or am I fighting some guy who's just trying to fight for his family? It changed that perspective for me. So we started seeing a lot of that. It didn't take away the anger of wanting to kill the guy for shooting at me, trying to kill me, but it kind of, for me, created some reserve and more selection in what I was doing.
Right. And like you said, like it's real easy in the basic training, all the training, dehumanizes. Yeah. Right. So it makes it easy to pull that trigger to do your job. But then, when you find, when you become privy to things of that nature, that small pause, and to your point, like who am I fighting?
Yeah.
And
I sympathize with them because like if I was in their shoes, I would absolutely, be fighting for my family,
Yeah, of course.
Your loved ones, your daughters, your wives, whatever, you want to protect them as much. And if you're kind of trapped in that, I mean, it's hard. What are you going to do, right? And they don't have much anyway at that point because the economies, their whole infrastructure, their whole lifestyle had been destroyed, so they're just trying to survive at this point, so I can't blame them, but
at the same time, you're going to get it like everybody else.
You're going to get it. Yeah, you're going to get it like, fortunately we captured him, we took him in and obviously interrogated him. That's how we got that information. But it was just like learning that, it like changed the game for us.
Sure.
So,
sure.
But, yeah, man, it was that road, man. I'll never forget that road, man. It was just so intense.
Oh, how could you?
So,
yeah, it's infamous for a reason. It's infamous for a reason. And, like I
Uh,
said, Vegas odds, you were going to get something.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Yep. If it wasn't my patrol, it was the morning patrol. It was the midnight patrol. Somebody was getting hit, at some point during that 24 hours.
And so was that the tail end? Did that portion or that section take you to the end, or was that the middle portion?
That was the middle portion. So we were there for like 3 months, and it was like towards the end of the year the last part of this, they moved us from Baghdad up to Camp Cook. We went north a little bit, Camp Taji. I've heard it called both, but we went up north, and at that point our mission had changed. We were no longer doing patrols. We were now getting attached to a police station up in Tarmiya, Iraq. And now our job was to train them and oversee them and kind of get them established.
That had to be interesting.
It was. But, I met some really amazing locals actually there. And, it was bittersweet, right? So that area, we were told, was very loyal to Saddam's Ba'ath Party. And he had a lot of chemists that live up there. There was a lot of his people that were in that town.
Somewhat a more affluent area, if you will.
Yeah. It didn't look like it, but it was just people that were loyal to him were there. Mm-hmm. And so we knew we were kind of getting in some, rough area, territory. And so this took us all the way to the end. But I remember we would do like a week out, pack up all our stuff, go out there to the police station. We took over, a part of the building, and we fortified it, painted all the windows black, and and just kind of took over this compound. It's in the heart of the city, and so we had guys up on the roof and stuff like that. Well, my job every time we were there was to sit on the second story balcony, right at the very end, over the entrance, overlooking the front gate. And so part of that security was we would bring the police force, members of the police force up, and they would sit with us. They had the same assignment, so you're always sitting with the same guy. I was lucky, I had the pleasure of actually meeting this young guy who was about the same age as me at the time. He was about 20, 21. Just honestly, really good guy. And he, I take it with a grain of salt. He told me, he's like, "Oh, I'm Saddam's nephew, actually." I don't know if there's any
hard
truth.
selling, right?
I don't know if there's truth to that or not, but that's what he told me. But ultimately, he was honestly just a really nice guy. He wanted the best for his country. He didn't like what Saddam was doing. He didn't like what Saddam's sons were doing, and I'm going to circle back to that in a minute. But he was just, we'd have conversation. He'd tell me, about life in Iraq before the war. Mm-hmm. He would tell me about his family. He would teach me a little bit of Arabic. We would just laugh and, we share stories. And that's all you can do sitting at, in the middle of the night.
Two soldiers.
Right. Pulling security. And so we got to know each other really well. And, so I was there for the first election in Iraq, and a free election that we had set up there. And that was also the same night as my 21st birthday.
Nice.
So, but we got pulled out to go do a checkpoint up on the, I think it was the Euphrates River. Mm-hmm. And so we were sitting there, my buddy, I think it was my gunner, and my other buddy, they brought me a chocolate pound cake with a cigarette in it for my birthday cake.
Yes. Happy birthday.
So they're like, "Here, Lily, happy 21st. Sorry we can't get you any shots or anything like that, but here you go." And I remember I was eating the pound cake, and those things are so chalky, right?
Right.
They're the worst, but
at the same time,
so delicious,
right?
Especially you haven't had proper sweets in a long time. So I'm eating that, smoking that, and all of a sudden you hear just pop, RPG right over my head, just flew, and I'm just like, we're all like, "What the hell?" My lieutenant, he goes, "Lilley, you lead it, go get him." And I was like, "All right, let's do this." And so we went off and into the trees. It's middle of the night, can't see anything. Even though we had our night vision, he was already gone by the time we got over there.
Mm-hmm.
And, at that point, it was like there was like a dozen houses over there. Where we going to go search them all? Like we're a small 5-man team. Like we're not going to find this guy. And so we're just like, yeah, whatever. But it's still, I was like, I love telling people, it's like, well, you were doing shots on your 21st birthday.
Right.
I was getting shot at, all right,
which is pretty rad.
But that same night, though, while all that was going on, the police station we were at got attacked. and they tore it up. And there was a rocket that landed right where my position was, right at the time I should have been there, and killed my friend.
Fuck.
Just blew him to pieces.
Oh.
And it was rough, man, because we had to come back, and not everything gets cleaned up.
Mm-hmm.
And so for the last like couple weeks, 3 weeks of my deployment out in zone, I had to sit in that.
Mm-hmm.
And it messes with you. I still see it.
Mm-hmm.
But it broke my heart because he was a really good guy, and I was actually in the process of kind of getting a gift for him because I knew we were leaving. It was my last chance to get him something. So I was trying to get something shipped over to give to him because we had created, after months of sitting there,
Sure,
we had a bond. And honestly, I will say he was a good guy. He was just a normal guy, young kid, wanted the best, right?
Yeah.
And just that took a toll on me, man.
Yeah, for sure.
But working with the police force, man, while I kind of created a bond with this guy, I didn't fully trust him. I always had my guard up on him.
Right,
You don't know.
unfortunately.
You don't know.
Right.
And there was a lot of guys in there that we just were very suspicious of. Kept our guard up around all of them. We had one helper guy that was helping with us, one of the locals, and he would come clean up the facility for us, mop and sweep and all that stuff. And, we paid him, all that good stuff. He got paid pretty good, right? It wasn't much out of our pockets, but, he was banking, honestly, for them. But they ended up killing him and just shot him, captured him and shot him because he was helping us.
Because he was, right.
There was a number of people that were helping us. We'd find the bodies all the time. It was just, it was painful because it was just like, you're trying to help, right? We would, to go back, we'd build schools and they would blow them up. We would build, bring them water or set up pumping stations. They'd blow those up, and it's just like, we're trying to help you, man.
Right, and the poor people that are stuck in the middle of it.
Yeah, they really are. Yeah. They really are. By that point, I started to sympathize with the population. It was just like, this is rough, man.
Yeah,
it really is. And so, but it was also around that time that I also kind of, a year long in country really breaks you,
Mm-hmm.
and I had reached the point at that point, like, well, prior to that, I got into the point I accepted the fact that I was going to die there,
Mm-hmm.
and in my opinion, once you accept that fact, you become an effective soldier.
Without a doubt.
You can do your job very effectively because you've accepted that fate. I believed that I was never going to see my family, my friends, or U.S. soil again, and this is where I was going to be. This is it. My blood's going to be poured out here.
Mm-hmm.
And but then the next step for me was, and when we were in a Tarmia, I had reached a point where I was just like, I want to die. I'm tired of this.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen enough. Like, I am over this. I want to go home. Just fucking kill me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's looking back, that's a hard place to be in, man.
It's a terribly dark place. Yeah.
And because of that, you do some hard things, man.
Mm-hmm.
And you make some bad choices. And you have to live with that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a heavy weight to carry, but somehow, we make it to the last day over there. And at that point, we left the police station, and we were doing just back to combat patrols up and down one of the main supply routes. And it was our last mission, and it was the last lap. We were actually heading right back to base. And I was in the turret again that day, and and I carry guilt over this one really bad. But we going down the road, and I see something on the side of the road, and I'm like, yeah, I've seen that before. It's probably fine, whatever. And it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And it was an IED, and peppered up my buddy's back pretty bad.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember seeing it, and I carry that guilt. I've carried that guilt,
Mm-hmm.
of like, man, I should have fucking called that out. And I missed it. I fucking missed it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just the last day.
Yeah.
When you can't let your guard, that's you can't.
That's when it's right.
It's the last minute.
Yep.
And I let it down. And
Yeah.
it pisses me off so much.
Well, brother, I mean, I think that's just part of it.
It is.
Unfortunately, it's, God, I don't think I could count the mistakes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And sometimes even the best decision, 2 or 3 minutes later turns out to be the worst decision ever.
Yeah.
Because things are, so it's such a heavy state of flux.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. That's the unfortunate part of it, right? Is you try and make the right decisions. You try and stay, at that optimal level of vigilance and decision making, but the no sleep, the extended operations, the op tempo, nobody's. I don't think anybody's perfect. I don't think anybody's got a perfect record. Yeah. Without a doubt.
It took me a long time to kind of let go of that weight, though, and it took a lot of work, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it just, I've come to terms with it. I've come to terms with, a lot of things. There's still stuff that I carry, but it's just like you come to terms with it, right? And you, the guy's still here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Still get to see him, still get to talk to him. He wasn't too badly injured, just a couple pieces of shrapnel in his back. So he just got to go home instead of the last couple of weeks in country. He got to go home a little early.
Yeah.
So
probably thanking you.
We saw him when we got there. So
right.
So it was all good. He didn't even have to stay in the hospital that long. So
yeah. Wow.
But yeah, man. But that's life over there, man. It's just you don't know when. But it's an emotional journey, And for me, it was, I've heard you say it, Elias to Barnes, right?
Yeah.
And for me it was, gun ho, we're here to kill everybody, yeah, America. And then, halfway between, in the middle it became, just like I'm gonna die here. Let's get our job done. I don't care. I'm all in. I'm giving it all to just the darkest place I could go. And just wanting to end it, just wanting to get out of there and just not caring anymore.
Yeah, and it's that fine line between maximum effectiveness and recklessness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Which is a dangerous place to be in, right? Because sometimes you can't tell which one is which.
Yeah.
And I know you know what I'm saying. Yeah. Because once you get to that place where your give a fuck meter is at zero, then is he being reckless right now, or is he just being highly effective? And it might be a
little bit of both.
Probably a little bit of both, right? And that's and I've talked about that with other guests, right? Like Josh Shore, shout out to Josh. He wrote his book Counting on Death, and the whole book is the premise about being in that place. And I don't want to say that I ever got to that place, and by no means am I trying to, like I said, sound like Timmy Tough Knuckles, but it's like I always had the impression, or I always had it set in my mind that that I didn't really have any control over it, or I knew what I had control over was my actions and kind of the guide to the left and right, right. And so it wasn't that I wasn't afraid. Of course, you're terrified all the time. If I get hit, I get hit. And I'll either get hit and I won't have any problems anymore, like it'll be over with, or I'll get hit and it'll suck and it'll hurt and hopefully I live through it and then that's it. I just didn't, as ridiculous as that sounds, I didn't put too much thought into it. I was just hyper focused on whatever the task at hand, right?
Yeah.
So I never, but that place, like I can still relate to it, right? Because you saw people get there, even if you didn't get there, you can tell. You could tell by their actions, by their attitudes, by what they were saying and what they were doing. And man, I mean, was there to get deeply personal? What were some of the things, or how did you handle that, or how did you get yourself out of that? Because that's a deep hole to climb out of, or can be a very deep hole to climb out of.
Honestly, coming back home, once that last mission was over and I knew I was coming back home, I realized I'm going home. Holy shit. I survived. And just coming back home kind of brought me out of it a little bit. It didn't bring me back to normal, but just knowing I was going home lifted my spirits. I got out of the darkest of the dark. I was still in a dark place, but I wasn't deep in the hole anymore. I had more control over things. But it was just, it took to really climb out of everything. It took almost 8 years, and I still had, I came out, I mean, it was like a roller coaster. You come out, you come up, you're home, everything's kind of going well a little bit. And then it's just straight down again, right back into the darkness. And then, I hit rock bottom, man. It's just, and had to climb my way back out and stop the drinking, stop, doing everything I was doing, get therapy, talk to people. I went to the VA and just, I remember when I went to the VA for the first time, I sat there for like 4 hours with my caseworker. I just wanted to vomit everything out. I sat there with her for 4 hours just telling her, she's not even the person that's supposed to be hearing everything, but she's like, what'd you see over there? And I was like, did you see combat? And I was like, yeah.
A little bit.
Tell me about it. 4 hours later, she's like, okay, we need to stop. I can't take anymore. I don't know how you're still alive. And I was like, thank you. That was the most validating thing I had ever heard in all the years of my suffering. I was like, thank you, because I felt so isolated and alone, like nobody understood what I was going through. Just, have her go, holy shit, and I was like, okay, well, I'm good for the next couple days. So when can I get my appointment?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
When can I actually talk to somebody who knows I'm supposed to tell this stuff to? So
I didn't know you were the receptionist.
Credit to her for just sitting there and just taking it.
God bless her. Yeah.
So, but that was like one of the biggest eye-opening moments of like, holy shit, I did see some shit, and there was a lot of stuff that happened afterwards that drove me deeper into that hole, right? There was a lot of drinking, did a lot of fighting, never had done that. I'd never been a fighter, but I did a lot of it afterwards. Had lost my best friend to suicide, the year we got back. Tim Bowman, I know you know him. And, that rocked my world, man. I remember I actually drove past his apartment that day. I was home for Thanksgiving to go see my family. I drove past his apartment. I was like, oh, his truck's gone. He's probably with his family. I told the story before, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go home. On my way home, I get a phone call like, oh, hey, it's Tim. He's gone. I'm like, fuck you. No, I have plans next Saturday to go drinking with him. He's fine. I'm like, I'm gonna prove you fucking wrong. Don't ever. This is not funny. Fuck you.
Yeah, it's not right.
So I hang up. I call him, and his dad answered. And it was like, yeah, it's true. Call the boys. And I was just like, oh man. I put my truck in the ditch, and I beat the hell out of my truck. I was so pissed, and it was just, yeah, man. It just took everything out of me, man. It just, it hurt. It hurt, and I still got the gloves from I was on the honor guard and got to do the 21 gun salute, and I still got those gloves, man. They're sitting on my shelf.
I remember that phone call as well. Yeah, we were in Virginia. We were in Virginia, and I didn't take the call. I can't remember who. Solemn day, terrible. Terrible. It's a wonderful family. He was a great dude. It's unfortunate, and there's way too much of it, right?
There is.
Still to this day. I got two of those calls just this last week.
Sorry to hear that.
Didn't know. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I mean, I did. One of the guys I only knew by name, and the other guy I didn't know him super well. Yeah. Enough to. It's it's unfortunate, that we find ourselves in those places, right? Like, but I think. Go ahead.
No, go. Yeah,
I said I think it's unfortunately, just going through those experiences, I don't think you ever truly put it to bed, right? Well, it's never
you don't.
Right. You never truly put it to bed, and it's unfortunate that guys find themselves in a place where they feel like that's an option.
Yeah. Well, after that, that became an option for me too.
Sure.
I was through what I was doing and how I was living my life. It became an option for me, and I wanted to do it as well. But I credit Tim with saving my life, actually, because as a survivor of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're survivors of suicide at this point. I couldn't put my family and friends through what I went through, and now it became a burden for me to be able to do that. Like I just couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want them to suffer. So for me, it was like, can I drink myself to death? Right.
I want to find another way to do. Right.
I'm gonna make it seem like it was this other thing. I didn't kill myself, but I just died because I was stupid.
Right. I can relate to that. I've been to that place.
Yeah. So that was the approach I took. But yeah, it was a month later that I had another friend actually try to commit suicide on Christmas Day, and he sent me a text. He was texting everybody, and I had another friend of us. She reached out and she goes, "Hey, you need to check on this guy." And so I texted him, I'm like, "Hey, buddy, you all right?" And he's like, "I got to go. Bye." And I was like,
yeah, that's not good.
I told my mom, I was like, "I got to go."
Yep.
I actually, right through here, I was doing 90 through Dixon.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't stop at any of the lights. I flew through here. I was like, I'm getting to his house. Because here's the thing. I knew he had guns, and I knew that if a police showed up, he was going to try to, he's the kind of guy that
Duke it out.
He's like, if I'm not going to be able to do it myself, I'm going to make them do it.
Yeah, yeah.
And they would do their job, right? And so I can't, fault them, but I was like, I can't call the police. I have to get down there and de-escalate this now. And so I got down there, and, we fought, man. We fought. He was trying to kill me at one point. He had a K-bar in his hand. He was literally stabbing me with it. It cut up my hands pretty bad. But I was able to stop him. And I remember everything that happened. And we're not going to go into too much of it, but I remember everything that happened that day. And he was so drunk, he has no idea.
Right.
He still doesn't remember to this day. But, ultimately, he's still here.
Yeah.
And that was a victory, and I'm happy about that, and I wish him well.
And I bet he is too. I'm sure he is.
Yeah, and so it was just, that those two moments in my life is what sent me down, right? Because it was just like I had just lost the two closest people to me. They had just been struck, by this thing. So what I thought was the hardest part was the war. No, it's the after. It's coming home, right? And it was just, it started this downward spiral for me until I just hit rock bottom, man. I lost everything, all the money I'd saved, blew it on drinking and just partying, not caring, and just, man, I lost everything, man. Until I was just like, I had that wake up call. I locked myself up in an apartment a room that I rented. I had barely enough money to rent that, and locked myself in there for a month and sobered up, quit drinking, quit smoking. And I was just, completely sobered up, white knuckled it the whole time by myself, probably not the most,
it's a way. Yeah.
It's not the easiest way or the smartest way.
It's a way.
But I'll tell you, it worked for me, right?
Good.
After that, I was able to get control of drinking. I was able, I told my friends, I was like, they wanted me to come on hang out with them, but they were always going to the bars. So I was like, I'll come hang out, but don't let me drink. And then it turned into, okay, I'll drink with you, but if you see me getting out of hand, this is the exception, right? You have to stop me. I can't control it. So we're gonna test the water to see where we get. And since then, I haven't had a problem, right? I've known my limits. I know when I go through breaks of sobriety now, right?
Sure. I think a lot of that too is time, place, age, maturity has a lot to do with it, right? Because it's all self-destructive behavior, right? Like you just came from the most destructive, apocalyptic, chaotic environment, and then you come back here and it's almost like Applebee's has rats. You know what I mean? Like you're you can't even help it. Yeah. Right. Because you're so used to the chaos and you're so used to the madness. Like now I've got this normality is almost painful. Like I have to make this chaotic. I have to do something to cause chaos, right? Which is counterintuitive. You know, like it makes none of it makes any sense.
Yeah.
Like you said, you should be so thankful that you're home and that you're healthy.
Yeah.
You know, and that you're surrounded by people that care and love for you. And I get 100% of it, dude. I've been to all of the same places. Like I understand.
Yeah. But it was like with that, it's like some of the things that I did over there. Like I couldn't even be around my family. I distanced myself from my family, a lot of my friends, because I, you know, in them I saw the faces of the, you know, what the deeds I did over there, right? And you can't look at them, you know, and you just like, okay, well, you know what? We're going to be a man about this. We're going to compartmentalize it,
shove it
bury
all the way down,
and I'm just not going to look at the problem. I'm going to leave, right? And that's what I did. And you know, it's taken, you know, nearly 20 years for me to come back and start like, you know what? Hey, this is what happened. This is where I was at. I want to apologize for leaving, but you have to understand where I was at and what I was going through. I want to restart, you know,
Sure.
get a fresh start. And there's been a lot of rebuilding relationships and, you know, and it's been so healing and so great.
Good.
But it's an ongoing thing, right? You know, you think it's over, you know, it's been 20 years and I'm still working through it, right?
Yeah, I don't think until we, you know, I think I don't think until we shut our eyes for the last time. It's not. It's always going to be there. It's always running in the background. You know, I say it's like a screensaver. You know what I mean? Like it's just always there. And I don't think I've ever talked to a combat veteran that disagrees.
No, neither have I.
You know, I think once again, you know, I think it becomes our identity, and when that identity serves us in those environments, right, along with the training and the so on and so forth, and then when we don't lose that identity when we come back to where it doesn't serve us at all in this, you know, peacetime environment, and our default is hostility and being combative, right? Whether it's to the people around us or to ourselves, you know, and it's because it's attached to that identity and those memories. And so, you know, I can remember, like I said, my father said to me once, and I was very young, I was asking him, you know, all kinds of, you know, age questions, you know, very young age, you know, like, and he just said, hey, it's not who I am, it's something that I did, you know? And I choose to remember the good parts, you know.
And honestly, it's taken me a long time to even realize that, you know, that very thing. You know, there was a point where I boxed everything up. I was like, I'm not this guy. Military, you know, anybody introduced me, you know, it was like, no, we're not talking about, they would say, oh, he served in Iraq. I'm like, no, we're not talking about that. Nope. I do this now, you know.
Right.
But then it became, you know, when I became more comfortable with it, it brought it, all that, unpacked all that stuff. And I was like, you know what, I need to be proud of this again.
Yeah.
You know,
as you should.
Yeah.
100%. As you should be. Yeah. It's a heavy deployment, dude.
Yeah, dude. It was something else, man. And I, you know, like I said, I think we started this, we brought everybody home alive, you know, and at that time that was kind of a rare thing. And we were in pieces, you know, I was one of a few guys in my platoon that didn't get a Purple Heart. And, just, you know, being able to say that we brought everybody home is like, for me, mission accomplished.
1,000%. Yeah, 1,000%, because that is rare.
Yeah.
You know, that's rare. You know, it's you did it right. You know what I mean? There's no other way to do it. You know, you did it right because you're sitting here.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, whether it was by accident or on purpose.
Yeah. And that's one thing a lot of the things that I've wrestled with was just like, you know, looking back on it, I wouldn't change a thing, even though, you know, how hard it was. Everything that happened has brought me here, right? I'm still here. I'm still fighting, you know, I'm still strong. And to be honest, you know, every year it gets better. And, you know, it's been enough, you know, just getting better and better. And I'm so grateful, you know, and just, like I said, just whatever happened because it had to happen.
Right.
For me to be here.
Right.
So,
well, what was the transition period and how did you find new purpose? What was it that really helped you turn the page on it? Was it a new career move? Was it a change of environment? You know,
so it was the therapy that I was going through at the time. And I remember some of the people I was with, they were like, oh, you should, try doing some artistry, right? And, find an artistic expression, way to get it out artistically, whether it's writing, painting, photography, this and that and whatnot. So, I started doing photography for a little bit, got a lot of stuff out through there, but it wasn't a career path for me and something I wanted to get into. So at the time, I was kind of bouncing around jobs, just trying to figure out what I want to do, try to re-establish myself. And so I was working for this delivery service in downtown Chicago at this point, and outside my office, they were filming Transformers, the movie.
Badass.
There. And I think it was Dark Side of the Moon they were filming out there. It's one of the earlier ones. And
those
so
are fucking great movies.
Because I was doing it was a next day delivery service, package parcel delivery. So I would have to walk through their set every day for like the entire time they were shooting there. The whole street's tore up. They got all these props and stuff. You see Bumblebee parked right outside your, and Optimus Prime, the semi, just sitting outside your building. Like, oh, this is so cool. And I was like, you know what? I had a buddy that was up there. He had a picture on his wall. He was an extra in a film. And I was like, that'd be cool, like to get that photo, just screenshot of you in a movie, right? Little old me from Polo, Illinois.
Right.
Get to do this. Let's do it, right? So I found they were shooting Contagion. It was the next film that was shooting up there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was an extra in that. You don't see me in any of it, so I didn't get my screenshot, but I was like, it was a life-changing thing because at that moment, I had so much fun. I was like, I feel safe. Like, I feel comfortable. Like, I could be me. Nobody's judging me. This and that. I was like, this is fun, right? I felt safe. It felt fun. I was like, I'm going to keep doing this until I'm just tired, not having any fun or whatever. I want to do something else. I'm just going to do this until I don't want to anymore. And so I ended up, and that's how I fell into acting, actually. It's like,
wow.
It just happened by chance. You just seeing it. And so Transformers, so Tom DeSanto, he's the guy that does all the Transformers films. I actually got to meet him and tell him this story a couple years ago out there in Hollywood. He was at an event with us for Veterans of Media and Entertainment, VME. And so he was out there. I told him the story, and he couldn't believe it. But yeah, it was like, your film is actually what brought me here. So
whoa, no, right.
He was like, I remember when we did that. That was a lot of fun, right? So, but yeah, it was so cool. It was so cool, And I was up in Chicago, did training at the Second City Training Center up there, and kind of got my foot into theater up there, and that's where I met my wife. Actually, she was doing the same program as well, and we were doing a show together, and we just hit it off, and been together ever since. So it was about 2016, I think it was. We were like, you know what? If we want to continue doing this, we got to get out of Chicago. We got to get to LA. That's where Hollywood is. All the magic's happening. So we were like, packed up, sold everything, moved out there. It was January 1st. We arrived New Year's Day, 2017. So I was like, oh, this is gonna be easy to count the number of years I've been here, right? But we get there and just kind of, immediately I joined the American Legion Hollywood Post 43 out there, and that's been, that place out there that Legion Post is amazing. A big old theater, Art Deco bar that I guarantee you've seen before. You just don't know it.
Oh, really?
They film in there all the time.
No shit.
Oh yeah, you've seen it. You just don't know it. So constantly filming in there. It's this big old building, World War I veterans built.
Wow.
And it's literally like a bunker. It's built like a bunker. I mean, you even have like gun port windows.
No shit.
Slats in the window. Oh, it's amazing. But the bars down underneath is Art Deco type bars, old style. It's absolutely beautiful, man. And if you're ever in LA, man, you gotta let me know. I'll love to take you.
Yeah, don't twist my arm, right? Yeah.
But it's a beautiful place, man. And connected with a bunch of great vets that are all working in the film industry. Actors, producers, directors, writers. And hooked up with this organization, like I mentioned earlier, Veterans of Media and Entertainment, and started volunteering with them. And what they do is we help transition veterans from their first career, which is the military, into their new career, right? but we put them on a fast track, right? Because a lot of veterans, like a lot of your normal people, especially people in Hollywood, they're going to college right after high school. They're getting a start in their early 20s out in Hollywood. Veterans are coming out of their second career, either late 20s, 30s, whatever, retiring and then going into it. They, are starting back where a 20-year-old started.
Right.
So they have a long way to go. So we kind of close that gap a little bit and try and give them an advantage. And through training, specialized training only offered to veterans. Talks with producers, access to events, screenings, all this stuff. So you're meeting people that have, titans in the industry essentially. One of my first day at one of those meetings was the director of casting for the organization comes up to me and he goes, I just had this this audition come in. He's like, do you have your resume? He's like, let me see everything. He took a quick look at it, and I literally just joined that day. He's like, let me take a look at everything. Okay. All right, I'm going to send you an audition. You're about the right height. They can change your hair a little bit, but you're good for it. So this guy was a Top Gun Air Force pilot.
Oh, sick.
So, so that was kind of cool to actually meet somebody who'd been to Top Gun.
Fuck yeah, that's rad.
And but he talked like you really had to listen to him. He was like mile a minute. Like he was fast talking. He was very on point. He was no bullshit. Do this exactly as I say. But he gave me an audition for it was a film that I think Angelina Jolie was directing. And so I was like, my first audition out here is for a major, feature film. Like, how awesome is that?
It's incredible, yeah.
I wouldn't have gotten that on my own. My agent wouldn't have gotten that for me, but here he is. So we get auditions from, major productions, and they send it to us specifically looking to cast veterans. So for different roles.
That's fucking cool, dude.
So we get a lot of military productions that they'll come in with us and cast us. And it's really cool. It's very veteran supporting veteran, right? But we, and to go back to something you said earlier, we don't identify us as veterans, and you should hire us because we're veterans. We're talented writers, producers, directors. We just happen to be veterans, right? So, and that's kind of the approach we take with it. And it's just like we have everybody who's worked on major productions down to new guys, right? And there's a little something for everybody in there. It's a great organization. I'm going to name drop a little bit here. I mean,
Please do.
I got to meet John Voight, within my first couple of years out there. Great guy. I had dinner with the guy. And me being like nobody, right? I'm sitting here with my limited acting resume, and he's sitting next to me. He's asking about my career, and he's just genuinely interested in it. And he's like, he wanted to see some of my reel. And I was like, you want to see my work? What?
Yeah,
like,
right.
John,
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah,
know. So it was surreal to kind of get that opportunity to meet some of these people, and they just genuinely want to get to know you, right? And so it's awesome, right? And a lot of those guys, I think a lot of people in Hollywood don't understand, or outside of Hollywood don't understand. They're just like everybody else. They just honestly want to have a normal conversation with you. They're genuinely interested. I think they kind of, we get a bad rap sometimes with not wanting to, kind of have some privacy, but it's just like we just want to have a conversation, right? Get to know you
and have it be a normal,
a real conversation.
Yeah, be a real. Yeah, I could see that. I could easily see that. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, they put the cereal in the bowl before the milk, just like everybody else. Right? Yeah. That's incredible, dude. Well, that organization sounds fantastic.
Dude, it's a great organization. Yeah. If you're anybody listening, is interested in getting film and television, that's the way to go. Podcasting, even what you're doing here, it's a great organization that kind of supports that too.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah, I never had. I was offered to play a silent role one time in a movie. I won't name the movie. Doesn't matter. But they came. They came knocking on the door and they were like, hey, there was 3 of us. We were teaching sniper school at the time. And they're like, hey, this is an offer. Like, they want 3 of you to be instructors in this particular movie based off this particular book, which I won't name because I don't have a very strong legal team. And I had read the book. And I said, because in the timing of this meeting was... because they were being very cryptic about what the book was. Yeah. And because initially I was like, hell yes, I'm in. That sounds fantastic. What an incredible experience. Like, who's going to say no to that?
Yeah.
And I go, wait a minute, what's the name of the book? And they said it. And I was like, I fucking knew it. I go, I don't want any part of it.
Oh.
I don't want any part of that. I don't want to be associated with it. Now, looking back on it, I should have, because, what is that? Just for the experience.
Yeah.
But I was being an asshole, right? Which is, ever been in your 20s,
Right, right.
So I said no, but and who knows what happened. And the rest of the guys didn't end up going anyway, so God knows what happened with it. But I've always been super intrigued. I've obviously followed you from afar, believe it or not just because you're sitting across from me, but the fact that, like you even alluded to it, like here's small town, hometown, Paul, who I remember from, there was a decent age difference between us.
Yeah, yeah.
And so when you started popping up, being very successful, I was like, man, that is the most Americana fucking story. It's so badass. Like, good for him.
Yeah.
Good for him.
It's been a journey, man.
I can't imagine. It's a whole nother episode unto itself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and how, like, there had to be a decision point, or at least like, you said you kind of stumbled into it, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
And at what point was you like, I could actually do this? Like, was there, you know what I mean? Like, was there a specific incidence where it was like, or was it just one or two things and then all of a sudden turned into something else?
So it was actually the first short film that I got cast in.
Mm-hmm.
And when I went in, I got the audition, and I booked the role, not because I was talented, but because I was the only one who showed up.
Oh, no shit. Yeah.
It was a student film. I booked the role, and I was the main character, and I did it, and I was like, all right, I have what it takes. I memorized the script, and I watched the film. I was like, it was a 2-minute short film for film class, but I was like, it was actually good. People I showed it to, they loved it. They thought it was a good, they thought I did good. And I was like, okay, I actually have what it takes here. Let's dedicate myself. Let's sign up for classes. Did that, started learning the craft and kind of breaking it down. And, but to be honest, it became a reality. There's a reality check that comes later of just like, yeah, you think you know it, but there's so much to the craft that it's just, you don't understand. And it's just, you have to keep working at it. There's a grind to it. There's a hustle to it.
I would imagine it's an incredible grind.
Because we're essentially going to an interview for a job every day. And 90% of the time, maybe 99% of the time, it's a no, right?
Sure.
That our job is to be a professional interviewer. And, occasionally you book something. It's just really, really tough because it's just like you're constantly demoralized. And so you have to keep working at it every single day. My wife, I love her to death. She works so hard every single day to on her craft, and I'm just really proud of the work that she does. She kicks ass on that.
She's in the industry as well.
Yeah, she's still acting. She's been. Hope I don't get in trouble for this one, but we're gonna say it anyway. So she's been on. She was a couple episodes of the Consultant on Amazon Prime.
Mm-hmm,
so,
I'm familiar.
Across from Christoph Waltz, great guy. And then she was on Abbott Elementary, 2 episodes of that. I think it was earlier this year, maybe it was last year. Not sure when it was, but yeah, 2 episodes of the last season. So
dude.
she was in that as well, and she's just killing it. I'm so proud of her.
Very cool. Yeah, 'cause you would have, like you said, you would have to get real comfortable with no.
Yeah, and you do, and it's frustrating. There's days where you're just like, you want to hang it up,
Mm-hmm.
and it wears on you. For me, I actually, stepped away from acting about 1.5 years ago, I think it was, just because I was just like, it wears on you, right? And I'm like, I need a little bit of a break. And so I've been kind of on this break right now, kind of looking at other avenues and things I want to do and kind of seeing where I want my career to go. I still want to work in the industry. I still love the industry, but I was like, I needed to step away to kind of clear my head a little bit and refocus and kind of get that creativity back, right? So.
Okay, yeah, I understand. I can imagine, dude. It would have to be incredibly... grind is probably not the right word, or doesn't do it justice.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? That would be in such a hypercritical, in such a hypercritical environment. Like you're a good-looking dude. You know what I'm saying? Like that's
thank you.
Easy part. Check and check, right? But like do it like this, do it better, not like that. Constantly. until you get to that, stage or level.
You don't even get, a lot of times you don't even get that kind of feedback. You're just kind of like throwing something out there and hoping it sticks.
And
right?
hoping it sticks.
And the thing is like out in LA, there are thousands of me's out there. People look like me, talk like me, walk like me, do exactly what I do. And it's just by chance that if you get cast, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really tough. And it's just, you don't always, like I said, get feedback from people. You're always just kind of like, I don't know what I did wrong, or if I did something wrong, you liked it. A lot of times it comes down to just the simple, you look like you could partner with your co-star, the other actor, and it's like your looks are more compatible. It could be they wanted to go a different race with your brother, right? And they can't cast you. It's a lot of factors that go into it. They want to create that cohesive story, and so it's like it may not be your acting, it may be your look, or it may be your hair's. They don't want to do your hair a certain way or something like that.
It's right.
Beard, or I don't know.
It could be anything.
It could be like literally a guy who looks like me cut off the casting director that morning on the way into the office, and they just don't like me because of that association. Nothing against me personally, but
right.
it's endless factors that go into it. You don't know what it is, and but it's still that moment you get on set and they say action, and you're part of the show. It's so much fun. You get to be somebody else. You get to and tell somebody else's story and bring that to life. And it's so much fun. It's a great art, and it's just a great. I don't even have the right word for it anymore, but it's an amazing experience to be a part of, and I'm truly been blessed with everything that I've gone through in the industry. All the grind, all the hustle. I've loved every minute of it. It just, again, it wears on you. Sometimes you got to step back, recalibrate, get those creative juices flowing again, and come back in stronger.
Right on. Was there what else are you writing? Or are you directing? Do you have any other projects that you want to talk about?
I don't, so because I stepped away, I don't have any new projects kind of coming out here anytime soon, but I have been doing a little writing on some kind of scripts. I'm not going to
keep it close.
Yeah, I'm going to keep those close until I'm ready to reveal those. But, there's some stuff in the pipeline. I'm looking at hopefully next year to start directing. I want to start doing, it'll be my first time getting behind the camera and directing. But I kind of feel like a pull in that direction. So I'm hoping next year to be able to do a couple shorts and just see if that's where I want to go. So kind of testing the waters. So.
Awesome, dude. Awesome. Well, you're gonna have to keep me in the loop.
Oh, of course.
You're gonna have to keep me in the loop.
Maybe we'll bring you out there and put you in the background for something still.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And dude, like full disclosure, right? Like there's a fair amount. Envy's not the right word, right? Like I'm not an envious. Like the experiences that I know you've had, like I'm so intrigued, right? Like you said, just to be there and to see, I'll say, behind the curtain, right? Which is kind of cliche to say, right? Because I had a fair amount of teammates when I was working overseas that had done exactly what you're doing, right? Kind of stumbled upon something like, hey, they need a Navy SEAL to go be a Navy. Like, don't say anything. Like, we're not talking about any major roles, but one of the guys in particular, God rest his soul, was in Transformers, and that scene where Bumblebee's getting. We always used to bust his balls because we'd call it an ice gun or whatever. He goes, "It's a cryo weapon." He'd like correct us. Excuse me, and I would just wear him out with questions. I'm like, what's it like? You know what I mean? How do you do? What is a day like, right? Yeah. And how is actress this or actor that? Like, did you get to meet them, right? And so you're kind of fanboying out a little bit, right?
Of course.
So I think being on set would be an incredible experience.
It really is.
Super neat, and you would not have to twist my arm, right?
It as a newcomer, when you first get on set, it looks like the most disorganized mess you've ever seen in your life, but it's just everybody knows their job. Everybody's just like bam, bam. They know their place. They get the work done. It's the most disorganized, functional thing you've ever seen. And it's just like, it's literally a mobile company going around like a business. Just, we're here today, we're over here tomorrow, and everybody just gets there, does their job, sets up lighting, sets up mic, the sound, the lighting, everything, set design, all that stuff. It's a ballet essentially. It's really cool to watch.
Sure, I bet it would be. Yeah, it'd be super interesting to see, quote unquote, how the sausage is made.
Yeah.
Because you think well, I think from experience, you sit back and you look at something, you think how it's done or what it's like. You have this mental picture, but nothing beats being there and then showing that you have no idea.
Yeah.
All that goes into it, and like you said, all the subject matter expertise and the people that. There's a job for everyone, and it would be neat to see. Yeah.
But it kind of ruins your ability to watch movies now, because you sit back and you're like, you're watching them do a scene that you know is hard, and you're like, I bet they spent 3 days shooting that 10-second scene there, and you're like, that's painful. Like, they did a great job, but I'm like hurting because I know what went into that. I can feel the pain.
Yeah, it takes the magic out of it a little bit because you've lived it.
It does a little bit, but you appreciate the work a lot differently once you've seen the work that behind the scenes. The many takes that went into it just to get that little sliver of a second into it. Especially the stunt people, when you're seeing that kind of stuff play out, like the beating those guys take. They don't get enough credit.
Tough as nails, right?
Oh yeah.
So give me your highlight of your time in the industry, and I know you're taking a break now. What was your highlight?
So my highlight would have been I did this. It was actually a commercial for. I was working with CBS Paramount, and it was for the Veteran Suicide Hotline, and we partnered. It kind of was with SEAL Team a little bit, the TV show, and all those guys over there. That's how I met a lot of those guys. But it was getting on there. We told our story, and the director was amazing. He had a great vision for it. He wanted to tell the story of what we were saying with our eyes. He would ask questions to get us to talk about something, and he wanted to capture that moment when we went there. And capture not what we're saying.
I understand,
but he wanted that what our eyes were seeing in that moment, and that's what he did and told it. And we actually got nominated for an Emmy Award for that commercial. So I actually been to the Emmys for that. And,
I saw you. I stalk you. Yeah, I saw it.
and I was like, my mind was blown, because I was like, again, little old me from Polo, Illinois. I'm at the Emmy Awards. I'm seeing my mug on the big screen as they're announcing, our commercial, and I was just like,
unbelievably cool.
We didn't win, but it was, it was such an honor to be nominated and to be there, to be a part of that production that did that, to go there was just, it was phenomenal. It was a great experience. The whole team that made that little commercial was phenomenal. And I loved working with them. They're great people. But I remember after it came out, I had a couple buddies that back here. They're like, "Did I just see you in a commercial for the Veteran Suicide Hotline?" And I was like, "Yeah, that was me." I'm like, well, I know they're airing it. They're seeing it, so that's cool. Awesome.
That's fantastic.
So, but yeah.
Well, what would you say to what advice would you give to an aspiring veteran? If there's veterans in the audience, there's law enforcement, first responders. What would you say to anyone who's even has a fleeting thought that that's something that they would want to try? What would you tell those individuals?
Just go for it, man. What's the worst that they're going to tell you? No.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to tell you. You're going to hear that all your life anyway. Just get out there and try it. When I did it, my first audition, when I decided I was going to do it, I went in. I had no training. I knew nothing about an audition. I went in and I made every mistake possible. I remember I told the director, I was like, he was like, gave me the script, and I was like, yeah, I don't think my character would do that. And this isn't an audition. You don't do that. And I was like, I don't think he would do that. He gave me a note, and I'm like, yeah, that's not going to work. I wouldn't do that. This character wouldn't do that. I don't. He's trying to see if I will take direction.
Oh.
And clearly I don't, because I'm like, no, he wouldn't do that. So it doesn't make sense to me that he would say that like that. And so make the mistakes. Don't be afraid to make those mistakes. Just go out there and try it. Grab your camera, your cell phone even, and make something, right? You can do it. Just trial and error, right? There's no shame in it. You may look stupid, but
I'm used to that.
But a lot of times, that stuff's gold. A lot of times, nowadays you can put that up on YouTube and you got a channel now, So, don't be afraid to try, man. But go out there and just do it, man. Connect with people in your area that are doing it. 'Cause I guarantee you there's people out there that are doing it that, it's maybe a small community, but we're all, all over the nation, right? Do a community theater, do something, just do it. Don't be afraid, right?
Mm-hmm.
As veterans, as law enforcement, first responders, we've been through a lot harder stuff than the audience or the critics that are going to come back and say, whatever you think they're going to say. A lot of times, it's nothing.
Sure.
We have much thicker skin than that, and we can take it. So don't be afraid to try it. Just get out there and do it, man.
It's good advice. Like you said, what's the worst going to happen? You're going to, they say no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get used to it. That's life, man.
I bet. I bet you it's no more than it's yes, right? At least in the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Like at least in the beginning.
So.
Well, fuck, Paul, we have covered some ground, brother.
We have.
I sincerely thank you for coming in.
Dude, it's been a pleasure, man. It's good to see you. You know what? Actually, I completely forgot about this. I want to give you to you at the beginning. I got you a little something. I think you're going to love it.
Here we go.
All right, buddy. Here you go.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, I even bagged it up for you. Look, I know how to wrap
This
the
isn't going
gifts.
to detonate on me. Is it?
I don't know, man. But I think you're going to enjoy it, bro. Enjoy that.
What do we got here? Ah, yeah.
Edible crayons, bro.
It is the Marine Corps birthday a couple days ago.
I know.
Perfect. Thank you.
I knew
so
you'd
much.
appreciate those, man. I know how much you like those crayons.
Edible. We do. Yeah, red's my favorite. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. That's perfect. Well, should we get you fed? Should we get you to lunch?
Yeah, I'm pretty hungry, man.
All right, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Paul, thank you very much. All right, appreciate it.
My honor, man.
All right, brother. Well, you guys stay mobile. Let's go to lunch.
Let's do it.
All right, dude. See you, everybody.